on Bettor Sports Network.
Snap, bootleg, Fields. He's got options, including a wide open Kokomet. Makes the grab of the 18. There he goes to the end zone. Touchdown.
Kirk back to pass. He's going to heave one to JJ to the right. Jefferson leaps to catch it, and he caught it at the Bills 40. What a grab!
Getting you ready for NFL action with information, advice, and entertainment. The Gameday Playbook presented by FantasyAlarm.com on Bettor Sports Network.
What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Andrew Cooper. Welcome into the Gameday Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm here on the Bettor Sports Network. Week 11, and Coop, you are back from your honeymoon, man. It was, we missed you, man. How was your trip?
It was an epic journey, my man, across different countries. I'll say I'm amazed how many NFL fans there are out there. Much to my new wife's dismay, I managed to stir up at least one NFL conversation with a stranger in every single country we're in, which was pretty much my goal. I made sure to be flashing the Patriots gear, the Fantasy Alarm gear, but you'd be surprised, man. It's not hard to find a place showing Red Zone, except in Prague. It was a little tough, but most other places had Red Zone popping, baby. So it was good.
Yeah, listen, we know that the NFL travels well. You know, they've now had games in Germany and in London, and they're looking to expand. They're going to have a game in Mexico City on Monday night. So I mean, the NFL brand is certainly traveling. And I've even seen rumors that they're exploring the possibility of maybe extending the league into a European market. Of course, they had the European Football League at one time that didn't really do all too well, but you know what, it was there. So we'll see. We'll see if the NFL continues to extend its brand. I was listening to the Let's Go podcast that Tom Brady does there. And he was mentioning how he's got a great record overseas, and I was looking to see if he can extend his career win-loss. Maybe he'll try out the CFL and see how he does in Canada,
Okay, why not, dude? Just kind of go back down through like those old baseball players that just kind of find their way back in the minors and play and, just hitting balls or Dwight Howard. What did Dwight Howard drop like 25 in China?
The Taiwan League. Yeah, he absolutely crushed it over there the other day, like setting records basically on over there. So it's week 11. We're talking about it. We are closing in on fantasy football playoffs. Like we are weeks away from the fantasy football playoffs. It is as much as we wanted and was waiting for the NFL season, the fantasy football season to start. For most, it's close to being over. So like these are crunch time weeks coming up. A lot of people I know are on the fringe, of making their leagues playoffs. These are must-win scenarios. I know in some leagues this was their trade deadline week. So a lot of moves to be made, a lot of kind of stories and news to kind of get to. And if you guys are watching us here today, go sign up in the app, right? Go to the iTunes and Google Play Store, download the Bettor Sports Network app. It's completely free to do. And then you join the show and you get into our Bettor Sports Network chat. You can ask your questions in this chat, and we give you guys priority. We've been saying this now for weeks. You get to cut that line. It's like your fast pass. We're watching your questions come in over on YouTube, over on Discord, over on Twitter. We're answering you guys as well. But if you don't want to wait, if you don't want to have the wait to have your question answered, just sign up. Get your question into our Bettor Sports Network chat and get it going. I see Ann in there already. Good morning. Getting the game. Good morning, Bettor Boss. Everybody's in the chat. Ready to go, Coop.
Yeah, that's the thing, John. I think you're honestly, to a certain degree, you're underselling it. And going on this trip kind of made me realize that like when you get in the app and you get in the chat, we recognize your faces. We know these people, dude. We know Bettor Boss. We know Getting the Game, Tommy. We know Rowdy, and we know, Bettor Boss is Matt. Like we know these people. This is a fairly new network. You're getting into the ground floor on something special here, hanging out with us in here. So grab the app, get involved. Call in, like we're down to hang out. I'm finally back, baby. I'm feeling great, dude. This is awesome. So let's get it, John.
And it's not just the Gameday Playbook, right? So we're here from 9 to 11. After us, you have the Front Yard Fantasy Show from 11 to 1. From 1 to 5, you have the Bettor Zone with Corey, Adam Ronis, and Tom. And then from 5 to 8, you have Holden Kushner and John Vesnia as well. So like all day action here from week 11. Readying everybody to go. Juggernaut B-Dub, welcome into the chat there as well.
Let's
go. We got a big day of content here today, Coop, to talk about. We got a lot going on over at Fantasy Alarm here today. Howard Bender already has the playbook out. We got the dartboard out. The example lineups will be out a little bit later on in the morning. We'll have all the inactives. I know Dan Malin's in our Discord right now, just crushing the Start Sick chat. So if you're in there and watching, you want to get into that Discord, go ahead and sign up there. I mean, there's really no better time to get becoming part of the family for sure.
And be careful of getting part of the family, because I see Tommy getting the game in the chat right now. Epic Raiders Broncos game on tap on the weekday show, the Front Yard Fantasy Show. Early on in the season, he's a Raiders fan. He and I made a bet. Who has a better record this season, the Denver Broncos or the Las Vegas Raiders? Loser has to come live on air and eat a tomato like it's an apple. And both these teams are terrible, and they face off today. I need Russell Wilson and the Broncos to come through today. Little did I know that Tommy actually likes tomatoes. I don't really even like them. So this is a pretty brutal bet for me. But yeah, get in the game. You get into some weird stuff like that with us. So cheers. See you out there, Short Center. What's good? How we do it, boys? Let's go.
Is there a tomato size? Like, can you go a cherry tomato? Because like that's makes the bites less. You got to go full on vine tomato there.
I think it was established pretty early that the cherry tomato is cheating, but I'm definitely gonna find I'll get one that's apple size, but it's not gonna be it's not gonna be a Macintosh tomato. Let me tell you, it's not gonna be an heirloom tomato.
I will say I agree with you. And I don't think many people came into the season looking at the rosters of the Raiders and the Broncos, seeing them 2-6. At this point, seeing the Raiders last week losing to Jeff Saturday's led Indianapolis Colts, who with an offensive play caller that has never called plays at any level. They brought Matt Ryan off of the bench and was like, hey, you're starting again. And they pulled off the win there. So the Raiders are certainly in some tough spots there.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Let's go over some of the early inactives that we know already. Some of the bigger injury news of the year. Cooper Kupp this morning, another update came out. He might be out now 6 to 8 weeks with that high ankle sprain. That one's obviously a pretty tough blow. For those, not necessarily for Rams fans. I mean, their season's kind of over as it is, but Cooper Kupp was still being a productive fantasy player. He was averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. He was a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. Really tough blow late in the season to be losing him. Jamar Chase is still out for the Cincinnati Bengals. There's really no updated timeline either for when he's going to be returning to their lineup. So for the time being, it's still T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Hayden Hurst getting some work there in that passing offense. J.D. McKissick is going to go on season-ending IR. He kind of lost his job a little bit there anyways with Antonio Gibson moving into that pass-catching running back role. But great spot for both Washington Commanders running backs this week going up against the Houston Texans and their run defense there. Josh Reynolds is inactive. It looks like Daniel Bellinger still isn't ready to come back for the Giants. Surprising, Juju Smith-Schuster out. Maybe not surprising. He took that massive hit. We weren't really sure if he's going to make his way come back. Mecole Hardman is out this week for the Chiefs as well. Corey Davis, Khalil Herbert, Dallas Goedert out. KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy are out for the Broncos. We're waiting on the Kendall Hinton news because if it's not Kendall Hinton, it's basically the Cortland Sutton and, who knows? Jalen Virgil, I think, as the wide receivers in Denver.
Yeah, I was looking at that. He got the most snaps there. There's another guy that they do like a lot. He's been returning kicks for them. It's Montrell Washington is his name. Okay. That's a guy that maybe in DFS or and I know you really can't really add guys in best ball, but like he's a guy that could make an explosive play. I know they do like him over there, but we'll have to see. But you're right, Jalen Virgil's probably the next man up, and I bet my money would be on Cortland Sutton, Jalen Virgil, and a lot of 2 tight end sets. That's probably what we're going to see.
I hope Greg Dulcich is the guy that comes through here because the Raiders have struggled against tight ends this season. So
it's a smash spot. Last week I told people I did not like, but I got a lot of heat for saying I did not like Greg Dulcich in that matchup. And part of it is, because the Titans didn't really play any good tight ends outside of Kelsey, who had a good game. The other was that anytime you see an over-under of 36 points, you have to sit back and say, what is this game flow going to be like? And at the end of the day, he only caught 1 pass. But this week is an absolute smash spot. Even last week, even though they didn't pull it out, he played virtually every snap. I think he played like 70-something snaps. So Greg Dulcich wheels up this week.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't throw to him this week, I mean, I don't know what they're doing over there. Roto Buzz guy Howard, there he is. Nice to see you in the chat there. Yeah, Coop is back. We got Lucius and Onyx over on YouTube. We'll get to your questions in a moment here. Just again, a lot of good things. You're talking about low totals, Coop. I was going through all the spreads this morning. There are some low totals on the board today. Rams Saints are 39.5. Our Jets versus Patriots matchup, Coop, 37.5 points there. I mean, that is pretty wild. We got a handful of games in the low 40s there. It's going to be an interesting matchup there for DFS for sure, given the low totals and where you go with your roster construction. We also have some big names on buys this week, right? Going into the season, you and I were wondering what exactly would what would the Miami Dolphins offense look like? Well, it looks like one of the best offenses in the entire NFL, and they're on a bye this week, so no Jalen Waddle, no Tua, no Tyreek Hill. Jeff Wilson getting acquired at the deadline. He came over and now potentially looks like their lead running back there. Mostert had an okay day, but Wilson was the guy that really got a lot of the work there in the end of there. Obviously, the Brady and Buccaneers in the Seattle Seahawks, their teams are on bye after coming back from Germany as well. And then, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars also on a bye week this week. So 4 teams out of the bye, so some big names they're missing. Those of you needing the waiver wire, looking for replacements as you wake up on a Sunday morning, probably scrambling. If you have any questions, get us in the chat and let us know.
Yep. Get up in the chat. Get up in the app. That's the place to be. I mean, look at this chat right now, dude. You got Matt Deutsch in there, Howard Bender in there. We got big names hanging out today, baby. So get up in here, get your questions asked. But John, let's start hitting some game previews. We got a lot today, so let's knock them out.
Yeah, we got 11 games here. We'll start it off with the Rams and Saints. It's 2.5 point home favorites. Out of the Saints over the Rams here. 39.5 game total. Matt Stafford expected to return today as quarterback after missing last week with a concussion. We know that Cooper Kupp is on. I guess that's really where we should start here. What are your expectations for these Rams wide receivers? Who steps up? Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson's back now. Ben Skoranek is a pretty cheap option on DFS this week. How are you feeling about this Rams wide receiver group?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem when you build your team the way that the Rams did. And, we saw this a lot of times with all the Steelers teams over the years where it was like they were leaning so hard on a couple players that when anytime Le'Veon Bell got hurt or anytime Antonio Brown got hurt or Big Ben got hurt, the season was over, right? And with this year, you have Stafford, who is already banged up, now Cooper Kupp out. They haven't built this team to pivot to other sets. Like, you can't look at this team, like with the Broncos, I just said, they might come out with 2 tight end sets with Andrew Beck and a couple of those guys. This team can't do that. They don't have the other tight ends available. Bryson Hopkins is, he does the same things as Tyler Higbee. They let Johnny Munt leave. So I think what you're going to have to see is the same offense they always run, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and the wide receivers are just going to be Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek. So I like what Tommy's saying in the chat. Skoranek going to eat today, cheap DFS. Van Jefferson, play of the day by Bettor. Like, these are guys that in DFS, they're going to get massive snap shares. Yeah. So you might as well throw that dart. Now in redraft, John, that's where it's a bit of a guessing game. Not sure I love any of them there. Allen Robinson, how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I feel like this has to be his opportunity, right? Now, his recent production has actually ticked up a little bit, but can that be sustainable? I'm hopeful with him now being the quote unquote number 1 option that he's going to be a guy that steps up and can kind of fill that role. It's not a terrible matchup for him this week against the New Orleans Saints there. And, their secondary has been giving up a lot of yards. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. We do got a question in our YouTube from Onyx that involves this game here. He wanted to know he needs to start, where is it? 2 of the 4, Zeke, Chris Olave, obviously for the Saints, Brandon Ayuk, Cordarrelle Patterson there. Which of the 4 do you like of that group?
Well, I like Chris Olave because, he's pretty much led this team in targets and snaps for quite some time now. I don't think he's going to have too much trouble getting the snaps. As much of a Zeke fan as I am, very difficult to trust him, especially after how well Tony Pollard's played, in coming back. So I would scratch Zeke off. And then the other 2 were Ayuk and what was the other one?
It was Ayuk and Cordarrelle Patterson.
Oh, man, that's a tough one there. Ayuk plays every snap, but the target distribution over there is all whacked now with Christian McCaffrey there. I think but Patterson also played fewer snaps than Allgeier. John, what do you think on those 2?
So my opinion, and this isn't my crafted take. I kind of saw it on Twitter now, and I agree with it. The last game for the Falcons just wasn't a great environment for Patterson there. It was really bad weather in Carolina in that game, and I felt like because he's coming off of that injury, they kind of limited him a bit. Getting him in a much better situation here, I think he's going to be good to go. I would probably consider Patterson over that spot. I'll tell you this. I think that we're having an opportunity here in the sportbook betting world. Tony Pollard's rushing total is just 42.5 yards today. I don't think Zeke's 100% healthy. I don't think Zeke's going to be going out and getting 20 carries. If Pollard gets 11, 12 touches, because he's been phenomenal in these recent weeks with Zeke out of the lineup and kind of already this year just sort of splitting the workload. He's a guy that averages over like almost over 5 yards a carry as it is. That seems like a pretty low rushing total for him today. I don't mind the over 42.5.
Yeah, I feel that. That's a good one. I mean, like, they've made it clear. Like, Jerry Jones kind of tells us what he's feeling, what he's thinking, and they think they're a competitor. They think they're playing for the long term. So I don't see them coming out and forcing the ball to Zeke here, considering the things they've said. You know what I mean? In the past, they've come out and said, last year they said, "Oh, Zeke's knee is hurt, but we've been told it can't get any more hurt than it is. It's just a matter of dealing with pain. So we're going to keep feeding him the ball." And then they did, right? So they tell us that last year. This year they say they're going to play for the long term. I don't see why they wouldn't lean on Pollard at least a little longer. So that's a beautiful play.
I agree with you. We got another question pertaining to, again, they're talking about Big Joe Money over on, or Big Money Joe over on YouTube. 12-man PPR. Do you start David Njoku or Tyler Higbee today?
I'm starting David Njoku 100% here. And I know it's tough because he's coming off the injury, but the Saints have been an absolute no-fly zone for tight ends, man. And teams, even like last week, the Steelers tried to throw it to Freiermuth. They got him like 7 targets. He only caught 3 of them. It's like Demario Davis, the safeties over there, is just not a good environment for tight ends. Like, they've just been crushing tight ends. So I know people in their mind say, okay, this guy with Cooper Kupp out, he's going to be force-fed targets. But what does that look like for a guy that, his average depth of target is just over 3 yards? It's not even in the top 90 tight ends. There's like 115 tight ends with 1 target. He's like 93 in average depth of target. So he's not going very far. He's not explosive with the ball. Like, it's just such a low upside play that I'd rather go with Njoku. And, I'll take the L if he hardly plays, but I just can't start Tyler Higbee right now. Not against this.
Yeah, and then last question I see so far involving this game here, Graham Edwards. He's got a 2-part question here. He wants to know Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, or DJ Moore. I think we're probably kind of leaning Keenan Allen here. He's healthy. He's good to go. I know the hamstring injury is worrisome, but he went through practice without re-injuring himself. So, I kind of like Allen over Cooper. Definitely not DJ Moore. I mean, Baker Mayfield's back at quarterback. Terrible. Cooper's interesting against Buffalo in that neutral field side. And Buffalo's defense has been a little bit leaky lately, but I don't know. Keenan Allen, when he's right, like he's just an elite option there. So especially in a PPR league.
Yeah, and you got to think that if they've held him out this long, then they've done it out of extreme precaution, right? Because he's had instances where he practiced and they decided not to have him go. So it would be crazy for them to hold him out through the bye over all this time and then start him when he's not fully ready. So I'm with you, John. If he's going, I'm in on Keenan Allen. It's disappointing so far, but I mean,
then the part pertaining to the Rams Saints game is he has Gerald Everett. He wants to know if he starts him or Juwan Johnson. We saw Everett when the 2 starting wide receivers were healthy for the Chargers. The production really wasn't at the level that it had been when those guys were out. But what are your thoughts on Juwan Johnson in this spot?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, with Gerald Everett, I mean, it's not a good matchup for Juwan Johnson. I'll say that up front. And the thing with Juwan is he's a converted wide receiver. He plays a good chunk of wide receiver snaps. No Michael Thomas, so it's still going to be Olave, Jarvis, and then he'll likely kind of be the de facto 3rd wide receiver there. With Gerald Everett, he's only played more than 70% of the snaps in 1 game all year, regardless of who's been healthy at wide receiver. Something going on with, I think it might be, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, conditioning. Because there were a few games where we saw him just completely gassed. Remember the interception, the pick 6 play? He was just completely gassed. I'm not sure Gerald Everett is just a guy that can play the entire game, or that they don't want to, because go look at his snap counts. Never one time he's played more than 70% of the snaps. So for me, I'm just not super excited about him, especially because he also tweaked his groin. So he's been questionable all week. It's just go what you want. He's been producing.
Sure. Ann in our chat here wants to know, she got Njoku and Juwan. Evan Ingram's on the wire. Who would you start this week?
Oof, man, that is another tough one, because Evan
Ingram's obviously not playing this week, so maybe this is a future question from Ann. But would you rather Ingram over Juwan? We're not dropping Njoku. Like, that guy's a stud all season long. So it's basically a Juwan or Ingram question.
Yeah, I say you key. Yeah, I mean, I would start. If Njoku's playing, I'm starting Njoku over Juwan. Juwan, again, he's kind of the de facto 3rd or 4th guy on the team, depending how you feel about Alvin Kamara, and it's kind of touchdown dependent. So I'd start Njoku.
Yep. All right. Next game here, we have the Jets versus the Patriots. Patriots are home, giving 3.5, and as I mentioned, a 37.5 game total. Coop, I think one of the bigger stories that I'm kind of looking around here, and I guess it depends on your weather source, right? There's a lot of different feeds out there giving you weather updates. If you went to AccuWeather this morning, it said that Foxborough is going to be seeing 20 to 25 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 40. If you go to Weather Channel, it just lists 20 mile an hour winds. Either way, and I'm listening outside my window right now, it is pretty windy. You live almost right down the street from Foxborough, so you know what the wind's going to be looking like. I don't know if that means that we're going to be seeing a lot of running today from Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, who's not on the injury report this week. Probably one of the reasons we get the low total here, but not looking good maybe for this passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, it's not like it really has a massive effect on what you would normally do because, like, okay, don't start Tyquan Thornton in DFS, right? But, like, I don't think Jacoby Myers' route tree is going to be terribly affected by this wind. Like, I went out, I walked my dog this morning, you know what I mean? Like, and it's windy, you can hear it, but it's nothing that's going to be game changing. But for the Patriots, wind wouldn't change what they do anyway. You know what I mean? So you weren't probably starting Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith. So just continue to start Jacoby Myers because he's been rock solid, and you start the running backs where you need them and probably stay away from the rest of those guys. On the Jets side, you know, that situation has been kind of in flux all, you know, ever since Breece Hall went down. Is there anybody you really truly feel good about starting on that team, John?
Especially Garrett Wilson put up back-to-back really good weeks, but again, if we're talking wind, like, is he like he had over 100 yards against New England 2 weeks ago? Is he going to be able to do that again? He's clearly their number one wide receiver. You know, that's probably the only one where you could maybe, like, he's been getting the looks, getting the volume, the production's been there. But again, if we're looking at high winds, and Zach Wilson's a guy that's looking to throw downfield a bit, probably not the best spot for him to be productive. So no, I think Michael Carter is that guy. Maybe you know, with the Jets, you know, coming back here out of their bye week, you know, maybe James Robinson gets more acclimated to what they got going on because they're not really utilizing him as much. So I think it's certainly a lot to get to there for sure. Better Ross Wilson does have a big arm, but we're worried about the wind. And I know sometimes the wind's overrated, but again, depending on the weather site that you're looking at, if it's 25 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts, I mean,
that's what changes it. That's what changes it.
Yeah, it's going to throw a lot on.
10 to 15 mile an hour doesn't really matter. Once you start getting above 15, especially into that 20 range, that's worse than downpouring rain. That's worse than snow, they say. They say the wind is the real killer because now it doesn't necessarily matter how big your arm is. You have to kind of like calculate the direction of the ball. You know, you're playing a different game now, you know?
Yeah, this is saying 15 to 20 mile an hour sustained winds with stronger gusts. So, and it's also going to be 30 degrees. So, you know, gripping the ball, throwing in the wind, it feels like a good day. And if you go to our draft forecasts or over at fantasyalarm.com, we have Ramondre Stevenson projected to be one of the highest rostered running backs of the day today. So, and probably for that reason there.
As he should be, yeah.
Anne has another chat in our question in our chat here. She needs the sit one of Michael Pittman, Chris Olave, Cortland Sutton, or Kadarius Toney.
Wow. Normally I would jump right out and say Toney, but with the injuries to the wide receivers, he could be playing he could be getting a full look there. So let's see. Let's get into some matchups here. Pittman's going to be seeing the Eagles corner tandem, who have been tremendous.
Yeah, this is a fallback to earth game, I think, for the Colts. Like, hey, they beat the Raiders last week. I think you and I could probably go out there and put a team together. So your wedding party could probably go out there and beat the Raiders at this point. Now they're going up against the Eagles defense. So I don't know if Matt Ryan's going to go out there and look all spry. I don't know if you saw the highlights of his 30-yard run that he had there, but it's not happening this week. So
no. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So I think if you want to get bold, then sit Pittman. Otherwise, it's Toney, because Toney might not play all the snaps. Still, he might not have a full grasp of the playbook. But I mean, Pittman versus the Eagles corners does not sound like it.
No, it's not good. I would still sit Pittman. I'd rather take my shot on Toney here, just given Patrick Mahomes is my quarterback, not Matt Ryan. So Pittman's my sit there, and so getting the game. Barkley, big day today on the ground. Yeah, I mean, get the Detroit Lions. Rushing probably is 92.5 today, so I think we're in on Saquon.
And in a week with a lot of low totals, like you mentioned, that Chiefs Chargers game is kind of a shining beacon. That's the lighthouse week this week, for your I mean, I know it's not on the main slate for DFS, which kind of stinks,
Right.
but the over under for that game is above 50. I think it might be the only game this week. That's that.
Yeah, it'll be a fun showdown slate to pay attention to there.
Yeah.
Bears Falcons. Falcons home giving 3. It's a 49.5 game total, one of the highest of the slate. Coop, while you've been gone, Justin Fields has turned into Mike Vick 04 Madden cover, right?
What?
I mean, 145, 178 yards rushing. They're still losing games, but it is pretty interesting to see the kind of evolution of his game over the recent weeks.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord, dude. It's been crazy watching from afar. You know what I mean? It feels like there's certain things that kind of just like it's funny. It speaks to how the NFL switches that quickly that I go for 2-3 weeks and come back and so much has changed. But
Right.
it's not like I left the world. Like I still had Twitter. So I just haven't been talking on this show. But yeah, I think Fields can keep it up. Like he's looked great. They've been scheming into his strengths, which has been great for him, using play action, finding guys like Cole Kmet on those play action plays. So I think he can keep it going. I'm still surprised though, despite all of this, that this over under is so high, John. Like, do you think it's justified to be a near 50-point game for the Bears and Falcons? I know the Falcons have had some shootouts this year. They've had a good number of games that have gone above 50 early on, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that over under. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely high, but again, we're talking about two teams that don't have a lot of defense. I mean, the Bears are giving up a ton of points. They traded away 2 of their best defensive players there as well. So, yeah, I think that it's an interesting spot. I think also no Khalil Herbert means more David Montgomery, right? I mean, they were in a timeshare. No more, right? It's going to be Monty. I know they run a lot of RPOs, and we see Fields with a lot of that rushing side, but Monty's going to be on the field now for the majority of this game, and that's how it goes well for his production.
Yeah, big time smash spot for Monty this week.
What are your thoughts on Cole Kmet? 5 touchdowns in 3 weeks now.
I'll tell you what, man. So early in the year, Cole Kmet, people are like, what do you mean he had great deployment? He had amazing deployment early in the year in the sense that he was playing every snap, running every route for the first 3, 4, 5 weeks, but they just weren't throwing and they weren't getting him the ball. So it didn't really translate to anything. The crazy part is during the games where he played really well, the first 2, not last week, they had him blocking on 8 or 9 pass plays. Basically, they figured out to do a mix of having him stay in and block, and then that would allow him to sneak out on the play actions where he scored the touchdowns. That had me a little hesitant because we're talking blocking 20 to 25% of the pass plays. That's 1 of every 4 or 5. Usually, historically, that's not sustainable. This past week, he came out, only blocked 3 times, scored 2 touchdowns. Like at this point, if that's what he's going to be, it's wheels up for Cole Kmet. If I see one more game like he had last week where he's playing all the snaps and running all the routes, I don't see a reason why that's not sustainable, why he can't be the guy we thought he was going to be. So right now, Cole Kmet is a guy, he shouldn't be sitting on any waivers, right?
No, for sure not. Thankfully, all of those best balls this is the fun part of best ball season where all those guys that you missed on for the first 8 weeks of the season are now coming through for you. Christian Watson for me, I got so much Christian Watson. I'm 38% Christian Watson over an underdog, and now the last couple of weeks coming through. Kmet was a tight end that you and I were pretty high on, obviously, grabbing a lot of those shares. He's finally starting to come through for me. So, never say never in those best ball leagues because guys start producing out of nowhere. You and I had a drafted team earlier this year where we took Fields and we took Trey Lance as our 2 best ball quarterbacks, and looked very bleak for a very long time. And now we've won 4 straight weeks, all thanks to Justin Fields there at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So
Cole Kmet and Christian Watson have scored 9 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. That's best ball city right there.
We have Fields, Kmet, and Watson on that team. So
I know. Yeah.
It's been pretty.
That's
crazy.
Chris Muzio's. That's the that was a video draft.
Yeah.
There's some big time.
We're climbing the ranks, Scoop. We're getting there. All these late hits are coming through for us.
There's some big time people in that. Josh Larkey. There's Matt Kelly from Player Profiler. There's some big names up in that league. So that'd be a cool one to win if we can pull it out with this late push.
Yep, for sure. Everybody in chat, I see you guys over on YouTube. Again, we're going to be getting your questions as we hit these games. If you want to skip that line, again, we've been answering Ann's questions. We've been talking to get in the game in the Bettor Sports Network track. It's completely free to download the app. go to your iTunes, go to your Google Play Store, and download the free Bettor Sports Network app. Sign up, click join show, then you get directly into our Bettor Sports Network chat. And we answer your questions first. Again, we're hitting the YouTube chat. We're talking in Discord as we get to those games. But if you want your questions answered immediately, go ahead and download the app and then stick with us all day long. It's not just the Game Day Playbook from 9 to 11. After us from 11 to 1, we have the Front Yard Fantasy Show, getting you all your inactives, all your late start sit, all the updated news for you guys there. And then we have Bettor Zone all the way out through the rest of the day, watching the football games, reacting with you, giving you some live bets, some player props, and everything like that you're looking at to take part in, Coop. So a lot of great things. And we also have Sports Talk 3.0 on the Bettor Sports Network. Join our live talk shows whenever you are with one push of the button on that Bettor Sports Network app. Hit the call button for an audio or video call. You want to talk live to Coop and I? Go ahead. We had someone last week. Give us a phone call and break down the game live with us on air, Coop, with Grande. It was great.
I called in from Prague.
You called in from Prague. Yeah, you did. You were in a church
the app,
beer.
The app works internationally. I didn't have any special connection. I just called in straight from the app, man. It was crisp.
Right. So you can tap the fun button when you're in the app to join part of the show, be a part of the community with that. Well, Coop and I in real time. We're all about you here on the Bettor Sports Network. Week 11 fantasy football playoffs are coming soon, so don't miss out. Get in the game with us here and get your questions in. Let Coop and I lead you, hopefully, to a fantasy football playoff and championship berth there. When Coop and I get back from break, we're going to continue answering your questions. We're going to go through and finish up these game breakdowns. We have a lot more to get to here. This is the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Time on the Bettor Sports Network app.
Green Screens Media back at it again with your BSN timeout. And today we're previewing Group B in the upcoming FIFA World Cup, also known as this tournament's Group of Death. With me today is the skipper of our side, Kerry McAllister. Kerry, this group consists of England, the United States, Wales, and Iran. Out of those four squads, give me one that you think will advance from this group.
Yeah, I think for me, England is the favorite. The Three Lions are looking to build off a successful and a heartbreaking run to the final of Euro 2020, and they're positioned to make a deep run in this tournament. When you look at their roster, it's deep, talented, and balanced. There's depth throughout, and players can be rotated without much drop-off in quality. Gareth Southgate has plenty of options to choose from, but the verdict is still out on whether he's able to lock in the best lineup and tactics for this batch of players. John Stones and Harry Maguire should center the back line. Midfielders Declan Rice and Jordan Henderson will bring some stability. Proven goal scorers Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling will lead the attack. The main question is if England can find goal production outside of those two. Bukayo Saka and Marcus Rashford will be leaned upon, and we'll see if they can live up to the hype. The hopes of England capturing their first World Cup championship since 1966 might rely on them doing so. Jay, outside of England, who do you like in this group?
I'm going to go with the United States, which is the side that I picked to win this group in our Group B preview. It's not all sunshine for the Stars and Stripes. As good as the Americans were in qualifying, there's a little bit of nervous energy surrounding this side heading into Qatar. Part of that is because of Christian Pulisic, who's obviously the face of this team, but selection decisions at Chelsea could cause an issue when it comes to his form heading into this tournament. On the flip side of that, a player not dealing with those concerns is Brendan Aronson, who is taking the Premier League by storm this season in his first year with Leeds United. And he'll provide this creativity and goal-scoring threat regardless of where he's played on the pitch. The defense is probably the most settled of all the positions on this squad, and Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie will provide some Swiss Army knife capabilities in the central midfield. Manager Greg Berhalter has options at goalkeeper, with Matt Turner looking to reprise his starting spot from qualifying. So with that being said, Kerry, is the England-USA match the one to watch in this group?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, both teams would prefer to get a win and feel comfortable heading into their final group stage matches. But this feels like a replay of the 2010 World Cup matchup in South Africa, where the U.S. and England played to a 1-1 draw. The English will view that as probably as a bit of a letdown, but that would be a pretty good result for the United States. Timing's perfect for viewers here in the U.S. It's Friday, November 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern, so make sure to tune in.
Absolutely, and that will do it for your BSN timeout. Make sure you stay locked into the Bettor Sports Network and check out Green Screens Media on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube so you don't miss a minute of our World Cup coverage.
The Game Day Playbook, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Time. John Impemba with Andrew Cooper taking you through the Week 11 breakdown, game previews, answering your start-sit questions. Coop, let's do a couple of questions here that we got in our Bettor Sports Network chat here. Ann has a couple of questions. We got Keith Tonic. We got Kevin Hawley. So a couple of ones we got here. Keith Tonic wants to know, needs 2 of 4. Olave, Terry, Pittman, or Pickens?
Yeah, so I mean, we already said we don't love Pittman's matchup, right? Olave's in for us. Olave,
Yep.
he's the de facto number 1 here. Even with Jarvis Landry back, they both played the same number of snaps, but Olave just running a more full route tree, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so I'm out on Pittman, and then John, Scary Terry or Pickens for you?
It's got to be Scary Terry with me. The relationship that he has with Heineke is pretty apparent. Getting back to last season, and then since he's taken over, some really strong performances for him. And it's a really great matchup in general. I know if you look on paper, a lot of the numbers for Houston against the pass are actually pretty decent. They don't allow a ton of fantasy points to wide receivers and quarterbacks. It's because teams just run all over them. I don't know if Brian Robinson is good enough, though, to like have that level of success. I talked about this with Howard Bender on the Fantasy on DFS podcast that we do. You know, elite running backs have just ran all over the Houston Texans. Brian Robinson is averaging less than 4 yards a carry. He's being productive by volume, right? He's getting over 20 carries in some of these games. So he's giving you 85 in the score, but it's on 3.4 yards per carry. I don't know if he's good enough to run the football consistently against this Houston defense. We'll find out. But I think this is a good opportunity for McLaurin to step up there and have himself a big game. So Olave and Terry for me, sitting Pittman and Pickens, the way I would go about it. Ann's got a couple of questions here. She wants to know Fields or Cousins. I love Cousins today as a DFS play for like a contrarian purpose. You're not sitting Justin Fields, though. It's impossible the way 40 points back-to-back weeks. You'd be jumping around if you end up having that on your bench, being pretty upset. She also wants to know Tony for Pickens or Dolchik in a PPR, not a tight end premium league. So Tony, Pickens, or Dolchik?
Wow, dude, I kind of really like Greg Dulcich this week. Like,
Yeah,
his setup, he plays a good number of snaps at wide receiver. He's a converted wide receiver, and now they're missing Judy and Hamler and Kendall Hinton, even though he doesn't really matter too much, is banged up as well. It's basically Dulcich is the second target after Sutton, which is like, you look at Pickens, he's behind Deontay, possibly even Muth, and then Tony is still behind Kelsey, and they still got MVS over there. Like Dulcich, that is, I hate saying it, they have to throw the ball somewhere, but like in this particular instance, with this matchup versus the Raiders, like I would be shocked if he doesn't get 5+ targets. Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. They got to throw to him here. I wondered how much they would use Chase Edmonds this week. Again, they didn't really utilize him a lot last week, but he's a pass catching running back. He looked really good at Arizona. I don't know why he looked so good at Arizona last year, and now teams just aren't utilizing him. Like, they saw the blueprint for having Chase Edmonds be successful in your offense. Goes to Miami. They don't use him so far in 2 weeks with Denver, not using him. So maybe this is an opportunity for that to change. Kevin Hawley wants to know Dak or Hurts today.
Wow. I think, let's see, Cowboys got the Vikings.
Yep.
And
then
the Eagles got the Colts.
The Eagles.
Man, that is tough. I feel like my brain immediately says you don't sit Jalen Hurts, but
right.
I don't know. John, what do you think?
I mean, I like Dak in this spot. I do. The Vikings pass defense has not been very good. Yeah, I'm gonna, and I am the biggest Jalen Hurts guy. I've been touting Jalen Hurts all season long. If you have, it's a good problem to have. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them, but I think I'm going to go Dak in this spot. There are just some better cornerbacks the Colts have in their lineup here. We don't know if those receivers for Philly are fully at 100%. I know that they're not on the injury report, but still some questions there, I think. And the safety blanket, Dallas Goedert not being there for Hurst, I think is something to watch for here. Juggernaut, full PPR, Kareem Hunt, Damian Harris, or a waiver wire flyer of Matt Collins and Nico Collins. Which one are you thinking?
Kareem Hunt, Damian Harris, or a waiver wire shot on Mac or Nico. So, man.
And a full PPR.
Kareem Hunt has been brutal, dude. And Damian Harris is essentially a backup running back.
Yeah.
I kind of want to start Nico Collins. As crazy as that sounds.
Listen, he got the touchdown last week. He had 10 targets.
He leads the team in snaps. They took the captain, the square off of Brandon Cooks. You saw that, John? He
basically quit on the team and then came back because he had no other option.
Right. So, I think I like Nico Collins there, man.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth the gamble there a little bit as well. Schwartz Center wants to know 2 of 4 in a PPR: Damian Harris, Hayden Hurst, Ben Skoranek, or Darrell Henderson Jr.
I'm just not going to start Hayden Hurst. Like it's not an interesting play to me unless you
He's
need a tight
got
end.
a safe floor though in a PPR league. He's been pretty productive with no Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I just can't start him in the flex though, dude. Because his ceiling is so boring. I mean, I'm starting Damian Harris in this windy Jets game and Ben Skoranek. But John, if you want to start, if you think Hayden Hurst is the safer, better play, then maybe. But those are the two I would start: Damian Harris and Skoranek.
Yeah. I mean, the running game for the Rams is rough. Henderson did get the touchdown last week. Maybe no Cooper Kupp. They lean on the running game a bit more. I mean, it's tough. I can't do Harris because again, he's just behind. He's just behind Ramondre Stevenson at this point. So I'm thinking that's the got to cross him off. Skoronek's definitely going to be in. Yeah, Henderson probably maybe has more upside. I think if you're not in on Hurst, I would probably go the Henderson and Skoranek route, but it's not great. You don't really want 2 pieces of the Rams offense right here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a really tough.
Shorts. I feel the fill-in week for sure. It's a tough spot.
It's not too often that we get a question that really has us in a pretzel like this one. Like that's a tough question, but it's just I don't know, man. Hayden Hurst doesn't even play the whole game.
Listen, I think you can rely on Hayden Hurst for 5 for 45 today.
He didn't even play half the snaps last time. Like they're using him like Mike Gesicki kind of.
Well, the last game they were also up a ton in what's his face there. Mixon had 5 touchdowns. So Dan said he's playing against your team, so you're giving him advice against.
Oh, that's right, against my own. My team is so terrible in that league that it doesn't even matter. Just start whoever you want, Schwartz.
The league we can't crack. I don't understand.
If it's that league, then start whoever you want, dude. It doesn't even matter. Like my team is so bad. So okay, let's get back on. Maybe we do some. Let's do some YouTube questions real quick.
We'll get one last question from me, and we'll jump to YouTube here. Charges tonight. Do I start Allens or Williams? Do I start Allen Williams? Yeah, you start them both. They're both in. You're both in. You can play them both.
Yeah, and if you're gonna start one of the two, I would start Keenan Allen.
Yeah, so if you had to pick one of the two, Keenan Allen. Let's rattle off some of these early questions from the very top. Lucius asked Kyler. He's concerned he's not going to play. Do you play Russell Wilson? I think you have to. You can't wait till Monday Night Football to then not have a quarterback available unless you have a spot you can pick up Colt McCoy and just stash. But you got to go the safe route here. There's no sense of taking a 0 out of position. You got to start Wilson this week.
Yeah, it's a fine matchup for Wilson as well. I mean, I know he doesn't have a lot of his weapons, but dude, you can't be starting Colt McCoy.
Yeah, you can't be starting Colt McCoy. Aaron Myers, Melvin Gordon, or Elijah Mitchell this week in the flex.
I still like Melvin Gordon. He still plays the bulk of the snaps. Chase Edmonds not ramped up yet. And if you look at how they deployed Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, it's basically McCaffrey plays virtually all the pass plays, and then he gets half the run work, and then Elijah Mitchell gets the other half the run work. It's not every week are they going to be able to provide enough volume for both players. You're going to see weeks where Elijah Mitchell plays like 10, 15 snaps and gets like 6, 7 carries. That's just, no team can sustainsustainably hand 2 guys the ball 15
It was interesting to see him get the 18 carries over McCaffrey last week. I'll say that. I don't think many expected that to be the case, that he would outtouch McCaffrey. McCaffrey still scored more fantasy points because of the receiving ability, but I don't think many thought that you'd see Mitchell be the lead back in that situation. Aaron Myers Kyle Mayer wants to know Mooney or Thielen in a PPR.
Mooney or Thielen? I'm going with Darnell Mooney right now.
I know you're a Thielen guy, but the target share for Hawk, dude.
It's Hawk, yeah. Hawk is, they are getting their money's worth, man. Like, you make that trade, everyone's on the same page. They want to get their money's worth. And not to mention, not too often you're going to get a Bears game with a 50-point over-under against a bad defense in a dome. Like there aren't many Bears games left that are going to look like this. So you got to use.
I'll say this, dude. The biggest thing for me with this TJ Hawkinson thing, I wrote the trade reaction article. At the time of the trade, TJ Hawkinson had only about 8.5% snaps from the slot. If you go look at his slot snap percentage right now, it's almost 20%. He's exclusively being used out of the slot in Minnesota right now. Irv Smith, 50% of his snap share, or 20% of his snap share was coming out of the slot. They're basically just using now, using Hawkins in that role for them. So the production's been there.
And they have for like an inline blocking tight end, they have Johnny Munt. Kevin O'Connell brought him over from the Rams. So basically they just said, hey, you're going to be Durham Smythe, Johnny Munt is, and then they're letting Hawk do what Mike Gesicki did last year, which is play every snap.
Yeah.
So we love big slot. Now the other thing is I would just keep an eye on, if AJ Terrell is out too, because he's been questionable, and it is a game time decision. Darnell Mooney could be a guy that you smash in DFS too. Like he could become the mega chalk, right?
Yeah, we talk a lot about playing the naked Justin Fields because it's very difficult to predict which receiver kind of is the one that goes, and he's giving you 40 by himself. So still a little bit too risky. He's not throwing a ton. He's just the receiver, like Cole Kmet's catching multiple touchdowns, right? And that's kind of making him pop. Claypool only 2 targets last week is a pretty big disappointing effort. I think many were hoping we'd see him improve upon his first game there with the Bears. Maybe this is a spot for him to kind of return and give us a little bit more value. William Frederick has asked if Tony's out. He's not out. It's a Juju and Mecole Hardman are out for the Chiefs. I just checked again because I have Tony in a lineup of mine. I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something there.
I checked. When he said that, I checked too. Yeah, he's
not the case. Chris Geneva needs a flex. Slayton, Campbell, Collins, or DJ Moore today?
Slayton, Campbell, Collins, or DJ Moore.
Slayton's been very good. I don't know if you've noticed.
I know. I've been starting him in that super deep league we have with the Dynasty League, with the Sirius XM guys. I mean, it's a 15-team league, but still, I've been starting the last 3 weeks. But I think I'm still starting. I still kind of like Paris Campbell.
You like him against Eagles, though? You like him against Eagles defense?
Yeah, I guess that's true. He's going to get one of Bradbury or Darius Slay, which is bad.
Yeah. For me, it's Slayton or Collins, and I guess it depends on what you think of the wind. I know, again, it's kind of windy on the East Coast here today, but he's got a pretty decent matchup. I think we could find a spot for that for sure if you want to. This weather report says it's going to be staying around 15 miles an hour for most of the game. It'll taper off later in the game. So, it could be a Slayton day here.
Yeah, I think, I like Slayton. I've been starting him, so I'm in. Yep. I'm in on that.
All right, we'll go Slayton there. Game of champs, start 2, Pacheco, Najee Harris, Zeke Elliott, DeAndre Swift. I've been talking a lot about Swift. They're not running him the football because he's not healthy. They're giving it all to Jamal Williams. He scored last week, kind of a fluky play. He didn't get many touches, but he did get a red zone take carry, and he scored on it. So I don't know if you can count on that production week to week. You have Zeke coming back from a knee injury. Pacheco did have a good week last week for the Chiefs. They actually gave him like 18 carries. And then Najee Harris has been iffy all season long. Tough spot to be in. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, man. Now, the problem with Isaiah Pacheco is that, the Chiefs are favorites, but when they get in the situation where they have to throw, it's Jerick McKinnon that plays.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility, of all those guys, there's a possibility that Pacheco could end up on the sideline. Of all those guys, Najee Harris is the one that's least likely to end up getting he's going to play the game. He's going to play the full game, but how well he'll do is rough. So I think for me, I'm going to start. Is it full PPR?
Full PPR. Yes.
Yeah. I think I would start Najee and maybe in Zeke. I don't know, man. That's
if Zeke's healthy, he's going to get 12 to 15 carries. So, or healthy enough to play, he's going to get the 12 to 15. So, you could go Zeke probably for a floor. Najee, I think probably the play there as well. It's not great though. It's not
good across the board. I honestly they're in full PPR. I don't think it's crazy to even rank Jerick McKinnon ahead of Isaiah Pacheco. It's just kind of,
especially in a game you think is going to be high scoring, they could certainly utilize McKinnon there a bit as well. Let's get back to some of these game previews. Panthers, Ravens. Ravens are giving 13 with a 41.5 game total. Baker Mayfield is back starting. Mark Andrews is expected to play. Gus Edwards is unlikely to play based off the most recent update. I don't know if we have any new news on that one yet, but Kenyon Drake would be a pretty nice DFS play in that mid-tier today should Gus Edwards be out against Carolina. And then Lamar Jackson should be good to go there. So after missing practice this week, thoughts on this Panthers-Ravens game?
Everything I'm seeing says Gus Edwards not expected to play, which means I'm starting Kenyon Drake just about everywhere that I have him. Like the leagues where I added Kenyon Drake, I had issues at running back and needed to start him during those periods. And I mean, when everyone else is hurt, they feed him the ball. This team is clearly not scared to like go with whoever the guy is and then throw him right back on the bench. So like when Gus Edwards comes back and is healthy, you can't start Kenyon Drake, but right now it's lock that in, right? I wonder DFS he probably could be a pretty solid start too, depending on how he's priced.
Yeah, no, 100%. If he's right in that mid 6K range, there's a lot of interesting plays there this week in that spot. So I do think that you could find Drake in a lot of lineups there. Fensty, man, what's up? Yeah, Ravens injury is killing it for a lot of people. So, but hey, if Kenyon Drake's healthy, we saw what he could do against the Saints a couple weeks ago. Big production out of him there. So, and I see your questions. We'll get to them in a moment. I know we're coming across some of these games that you got going on. So just sit back for a second. We'll get to them in a moment. Any other thoughts on this Panthers Ravens matchup?
Yeah, I mean, so Donta Foreman, are you rolling? Are you in?
Yeah, I mean, he's the lead back, right? It's again
drastically outsnapping the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? Is the volume's going to be there. They have to sort of run the football right now to have any chance, I think, of just like controlling other teams and controlling their time of clock and possession and all that stuff. But it's not great. I know she has a question: Foreman or Najee in a PPR?
Foreman.
I mean, maybe Najee Harris. I mean, because he can catch the football. He did find the end zone last week. It's this question.
In terms of run D, how the Bengals, they're nothing special, right?
I'll tell you in a second. I'll pull up their DVO defensive ratings
pull
here.
DVOAs.
Let's see. Rush defense, DVOA. Carolina is, well, not talking about Carolina, I'm talking about Baltimore. Baltimore is 19th. Cincinnati is 12th. So Baltimore does have the worst run defense. So, find a Pats fan and make a bet better, boss. Your Pats fans are right here for Fensty and Howard, those Jets fans there. Howard stopped making Jets-Patriots bets with me a long time ago, and he never won any of them. So, you're just not going to do it anymore.
I'm gonna answer this question right now, once and for all, John. We're gonna go Najee on this.
I just think the potential for the PPR is
right with the Panthers being massive dogs this week. It's going to be hard for them to run. Like running is it's the luxury of the winning team a lot of times.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got double-digit fantasy points almost 3 straight weeks for Najee Harris. So again, it's low. The floor for Foreman feels lower than for Najee. So I'm going to go with
Panthers. Najee. Yeah, Panthers could have to abandon the run real quick. Anytime you're 13-point dogs, it could be over for the run game fairly early.
Yeah, for sure. Commanders Texans here. Texans are getting 3. It's another low total, 40.5. Again, this is a matchup of the running backs for fantasy. I said this last week and it came through again. The starting running back against the Houston Texans this year has gone over their point rushing prop every game this season. So whatever Vegas has set the rushing line at, the starting running back on that team facing Houston has hit the over. The only exception was David Montgomery, who got hurt in that game. And then Khalil Herbert came in and ran for like 140 yards. So odds are Montgomery would have hit the over as well. So you're looking at like 64.5 yards for Brian Robinson today. He probably goes the over based off the trend.
Put it this way. How often, John, do you see over under yardage totals over 100 yards? Like the line at 100? Like very, very rare, almost never, right? Like they set Derrick Henry's rushing yard total well over 100, and he had over 200 for like the 4th time in a row against this team. So yeah, I mean, like we talked about, Brian Robinson and how he might not run all over them to the point that they're not throwing at all, but Brian Robinson is a good. If
there's any team that would allow Brian Robinson to average over 4 yards a carry this season, it is the Houston Texans. So. That's kind of my thoughts on it. They, of course, they rank 31st in run DVOA. The Browns are actually worst. They're 32nd in run DVOA. Maybe Devin Singletary could get some love today, but still, Robinson's your chalk spend down, I think, at the running back. Gibson's interesting because he is quicker, has a little bit more burst, some breakaway potential for him there. So the running back situation for Washington is what we're certainly keying in on. I think Terry McLaurin, of course, I think is a lock and load play. After that, though, like Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson returned last week, didn't play a ton, though. And then Logan Thomas has been a ghost. So I don't know if you like anything else for Washington.
Nah, the thing we liked about Logan Thomas is that he was playing every snap, he was running every route. He's just not doing that now. Like he played 75%, right? And he's not, in my opinion, talented or healthy enough to be worth a start if he's not playing every snap. That's what we always liked about him. Because the number, even going back to the year where he finished like tight end 3 or 4, it was all brute force volume. Like he wasn't going out and like doing spin moves and busting off like 50-yard touchdowns. Like it was just brute force, death by 1,000 cuts, because he was out there every single snap. Right. He led the league that year in routes run, more than Travis Kelce for tight end. So, and if he's not going to do that, then we just can't start him. So I'm staying away from him. I'm staying away from all the Texans tight ends as well. No, I don't care if Brevin Jordan is a healthy scratch again. I can't start Jordan Akins outside of a like crazy DFS start though, because he's not playing the full game either. OJ Howard's playing half of it. Can't start him. Just tight ends in this game. Wash him. Leave him.
Well, yeah, why they won't give OJ Howard more opportunities, I guess, is my question. He shows like he has the physical traits to be a pretty like David Njoku type mismatch for opposing defenses, and they just never gave him an opportunity to, outside of like that 1 year, maybe a second year in the league, right? Like
I said it this offseason. I was like, dude, if I'm David Njoku, I'm firing my agent out of a cannon into the sun for like signing me to he didn't even get that big of a deal to be the backup to Josh Allen's best friend on the Bills. I mean, like what were they thinking with that move? Like go anywhere else. Anywhere else. You got to either sign a 1-year deal for a lot of money to play behind Dawson Knox, or you got to sign cheap somewhere else. You don't sign cheap where you get no opportunity. That's crazy.
Yeah, then he finds himself in Houston now, and it's like he's competing. But he had that one game where he had a couple touchdowns, and he's like, oh, maybe. And you're like, he only had 2 targets. You just happened to score on them both. Dameon Pierce, I think that's probably the only usable play for Houston. I know I say usable. Again, Nico Collins, a lot of targets last week. Brandon Cooks is active. You can use those guys, but still, it doesn't feel like a great spot for much of that side of the game there. So
yeah, you don't feel good about it, right?
No, I don't really feel good about it at all. No. Eagles Colts are getting 745.5 game total here. No Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith look like they're going to be ready to go here. Again, Colts last week coming off that big win. Jonathan Taylor, I basically pronounced him dead. But again, that was with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. So like, I feel like I get a little take reprieve there, because that offense looked like it was doing nothing with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. They brought in Matt Ryan, Jeff Saturday supposedly is helping work with their offensive line, and Jonathan Taylor busts loose for a big game here. Any hope for the Colts in this one at all? Eagles coming off a loss.
You got the 1-2 power rushing punch of Jonathan Taylor and Matt Ryan, right? Like Matt Ryan had, what was it? He had like a 49. But he had that run was longer than the total rushing yards he had on the day. Like his other rushes not as successful. But so Matt Ryan probably not going to do that again. But I mean, Matt Ryan returning to me puts Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell back on the menu. Like he liked Paris Campbell a lot. It's just this week you're going to get, I mean, Darius Slay and James Bradbury are going to cover 2 guys, and they're probably going to take them right away. James Bradbury, talk about a guy who we thought was dead and now is very much back, right? Like he was shut down for a while there. He used to take away Mike Evans. Like he was pretty shut down with the Panthers. With the Giants, not so much, but now that he's with the Eagles, we're talking about a renaissance. So they probably have the best 1-2 punch corners.
Yeah, I would say so. I think they're right up there. I mean, the Colts are obviously up there with Gilmore and is it not Davis? Who's the other the corner? There's a Moore. I think it might be Moore.
Yeah,
is the other quarterback there in Indy. They're pretty strong as well. But yeah, Winston Bradbury. I mean, those players on those Giants teams just basically quit on their coaches the last couple of years and get them in new situations, and they're winning. And hey, winning generally solves most things, right? Guys get up and they're active and they try, when they think they have an opportunity to actually win something there. Cool. Let's go to some more questions here, and then we'll go to a quick break, and then no more breaks. The rest of the show after that. I'm going to take you straight through the rest of the hour.
I took a 3-week break, John. I didn't want to do breaks at all.
You got your buys. So
we'll do one break.
Yeah, we'll go to a couple of these questions. We'll come right back here. Graham wants to know, needs one in a PPR, need 2 wide receivers, Cooper, Tony, Mooney, Robinson, or Palmer. I don't think we can do Palmer anymore with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back. So Amari Cooper, Kadarius Toney, Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson needs 2 from that group.
2 from that group. So I think in that group is where I would start Amari Cooper. I didn't like him in the other group as much, but I think I like him here. What do you think? And then
Cooper's fine, and then I go Toney, I think.
Over Allen Robinson?
I just imagine Mahomes being your quarterback, man. Like, I want Mahomes.
Yep. And everyone else is hurt. Everyone else is hurt, so you get an opportunity here.
Yeah, I don't want what Stafford sucks. Allen Robinson is only like if you have to. I love Mooney, but again, Fields doesn't throw a ton. Mahomes is going to throw 40 times. So I think Tony's going to have a really good opportunity there. Woody Watson has a question here. Wide receiver in a flex. Williams, Robinson, or Gabe Davis today? Mike Williams, Brian Robinson, Gabe Davis, wide receiver in a flex, a full PPR.
So I'm going to start Brian Robinson in the flex based on what we've talked about with the Texans matchup.
Yeah.
So I would use that flex spot on Brian Robinson. With the other spot, I kind of want to start Mike Williams. But what do you think, John? Gabe Davis?
Yeah, it's been too inconsistent for Gabe Davis this year. Now it's a pretty good spot against the Browns, obviously. It just, you don't know. You don't know what Gabe Davis is going to do week to week. He hasn't really been that true wide receiver that everybody was hoping for this year. He had some good games, but he's also had games where he gives you 3 for 15. So just a lot of question marks around him there. Miles Sanders or Najee Harris today?
Miles Sanders.
Yeah, D-Hop, DJ Moore, Kadarius Toney.
So DeAndre Hopkins, is he true? Like, he's not hurt, but Kyler is, right?
Kyler's hurt. Hopkins has been questionable, but he said he's going to play.
Because I'm getting a lot of D-Hop questions on my own timeline, and like in my mind, I'm like, you don't sit him, but I guess
they said like it's not. What's his face? Kingsbury said it's not really a serious thing; it's just like a maintenance thing that they're working with. My biggest worry is that it's Monday night.
I mean, Colt McCoy might be better than Baker Mayfield.
It's not. Well, it's not only that. Like, they're in Mexico. Like, what if he drinks the water? Right? What if he gets some dirty ice cubes?
That's true, dude.
You gotta have somebody on your bench that could replace DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm gonna go Toney in that group again. I think this is a great spot for Kadarius.
He just needs one. I thought he needed 2. Okay, yeah, start Kadarius Toney.
He needs one. Yeah,
take the everything out of the equation. And anybody out there, take DJ Moore out of your starts to questions. We don't. The answer is no.
All right, last question before break. Drew Johnson wants to know: Singletary, Sutton, Rondale Moore, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson. He needs 3 of that group.
Singletary. Can you give it to me one more time?
Yeah, Singletary. Yeah, YouTube. Drew Johnson, Singletary, Sutton, Rondale Moore, DeAndre Swift, or Brian Robinson are full PPR. Definitely playing Brian Robinson. Definitely playing Sutton. So Singletary, Rondale, or Swift for you.
Dude, it feels crazy that I like Singletary.
It's not crazy. That's the answer.
That's the answer. I'm telling him to start. What feels crazy is I'm telling him to start Singletary over DeAndre Swift. But I mean,
they're just not using Swift.
They're not using Naheem Hines. They're not using Duke Johnson. They're not using James Cook. Like, Singletary is just playing. He played 4 times as many snaps as those guys combined, essentially.
Yeah, so he's still among the league leaders in routes run for running backs. As I mentioned earlier, the Browns 32nd in run DVOA this year. So
over a touchdown favorite. Over a touchdown favorite, 50-point over under. I mean, like, these are the conditions that we like.
And he's scoring. He scored 2 touchdowns last week. So like, it's not as if he's yardage or catching dependent also. So Singletary, Sutton, and B-Rob are where we're going, Drew. When Coop and I get back, no more breaks. We're going to finish up our game previews. We're getting your start sit question. Now's your time to download the Bettor Sports Network app. iTunes, Google Play Store, free to do. Download it, sign up, click join the show. And then you don't have to wait for us to answer your questions on YouTube. You get right into our Bettor Sports Network chat, and we're answering those questions first. And we'll get to you guys ahead of the rest of the line there over on YouTube. So while we're away, take the 2 seconds to download the app, join the show, and get involved with Coop and I. You can even call in, get on screen with us, and ask your question live. We're happy to do it here. It's week 11. Fantasy Game Day playbook presented there over on the Bettor Sports Network app. Coop and I will be right back.
This is Jeff Power with Real Time Fantasy Sports, and I'm here to give you 3 of my favorite DFS pick'em games for week 11 of the fantasy football season. Put these pick'ems to use at Real Time Fantasy Sports. Go to www.rtsports.com/DFS-pick'em. And right now, for Bettor Sports Network users, we're doing a 100% deposit match. Just use the code BSN and we will match your deposit 100%. Again, go to www.rtsports.com/DFS-pick'em and use the code BSN. Now, here are three of my favorite pick'em plays for this week here at Real Time Fantasy Sports. My first one is Broncos running back Melvin Gordon, more than 37.5 rushing yards. So Gordon has not really taken off since becoming the starter for the Broncos, but he hasn't been all bad. He has 2 straight games with double-digit fantasy points. He has double-digit touches 3 straight games, so he's getting the chances in the Broncos offense. If he gets that workload this week against the Las Vegas Raiders, I think he'll do really well. The Raiders allow the 4th most fantasy points of running backs, and they allowed more than 200 rushing yards last week. So I really like Melvin Gordon, more than 37.5 rushing yards. My next favorite DFS pick'em play is Raiders quarterback Derek Carr, fewer than 229.5 passing yards. Carr has really been quite mediocre most of the year for an underachieving Raiders team. I expect more of the same this week in a tough matchup against the Broncos. This is a team that held him out of the end zone in week 4. He didn't even reach 200 passing yards in that game, so he was well below 229.5 passing yards. And Denver allows the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, first overall against the pass. I really like Carr, fewer than 229.5 passing yards. And my last favorite pick and play for this week is David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears, the running back with the Chicago Bears, and I like more than 13.2 fantasy points. Clear Herbert is out on injured reserve. This leaves Montgomery to get nearly all the work at running back for Chicago. No longer splitting the work. He's going to get a lot more touches. I think this is great for his fantasy value. And I know he hasn't been great this year, but he does have 3 games with double-digit fantasy points, 100-yard showing in week 2, so he's more than capable. And he has a super matchup this week against the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta allows the 12th most fantasy points of running backs. They gave up 232 rushing yards to the Panthers last week. That's not exactly an explosive Carolina rushing attack either. And Atlanta has allowed 169 or more rushing yards 2 of 3 games. So I really like Montgomery, more than 13.2 fantasy points. Again, put this DFS pick'em knowledge to use. Go to rtsports.com/DFS-pick'em. Put in the code BSN for a 100% deposit match right now. Good luck in all of your week 11 games. This has been Jeff Power with Real Time Fantasy Sports.
The Game Day Playbook, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm. John Impemba with Andrew Cooper. Week 11 preview start. Sick questions going on. Game breakdowns. Any updated news? We got it. No more breaks, Coop. Going straight through to the rest of the hour here. Getting everybody ready. Stay with us, though. Just because Game Day Playbook ends doesn't mean the Bettor Sports Network shuts down for the day. You got Front Yard Fantasy right after us there from 11 to 1. You got Bettor Zone taking you through the rest of the day from 1 to 8, giving you live action coverage of the games going on, giving you some prop bets, some live betting action. So a lot more to get to for the day. No reason to leave. Download the app. Go to the iTunes and Google Play Store. Download the Bettor Sports Network app today, man. Coop, got to get your thoughts here on this next matchup. We have the Browns versus the Bills. It's a 7.5-point game total here, 49.5 over under. Moving to a neutral site. Not dealing with the blizzard in Buffalo, the 6 feet of snow. So we got neutral territory. We got turf field. What are your thoughts here on this matchup? You're muted, Coop. We got a little red button. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I muted myself and I fixed my camera, as you can see. It looked like I was like Tony Stark in a cave before, dude. Now I'm like, it's the bright lights. I'm ready to go. That's it. 3 weeks out, dude. Feeling a little rusty, but right back at it now. So this game, huge change getting away from the snow. They would not have been able to play, honestly, over there. Right. Like if you saw the pictures of the stadium, it was ridiculous. This now should become an interesting game. Like you start Stephon Diggs everywhere. Like we talked about, you start Devin Singletary, you start Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper is one where, they don't necessarily shadow, but the Bills do find a way to try and take away your top guy. So it could be a kind of a tough spot for him, but I don't know. Are you going there with Donovan Peoples-Jones anywhere, John? I know we have liked him, but
of course, I'm going with Donovan Peoples-Jones here. Listen, in DFS, he's a mid-tier play this week. He's in that, I think it's 4,500, 4,600 on DraftKings. Now, David Njoku being back changes a little bit, right? Now, the targets that we've seen from Donovan Peoples-Jones over the last 4 or so weeks, 7, 8 targets. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that David Njoku had been ruled out of that lineup. But Donovan Peoples-Jones has been a big play receiver just in general this season. You look at the last 5 games, he's got catches, like 4 catches, long catches of 37. He's got a 40-yarder in there. So it doesn't take a lot for him really to get you those 8 to 10 fantasy points at value. I think he's a wide receiver 3. I'm not going out there and calling him, this wide receiver 1, whatever. But in PPR, I think he's a pretty safe option, especially if you're looking for a bye week fill-in. If you lost out on Waddle or Hill or Evans or Godwin or Christian Kirk this week or anybody like that, Lockett, Metcalf, all those receivers are out. Donovan Peoples-Jones is probably on your waiver wire this week. I think he's fine to start here. Buffalo's defense, again, has been injured. They've been leaky of late. Teams have been able to move the ball on the ground, especially last 3 weeks. Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, and Aaron Jones have all had a lot of success running the football against Buffalo. So this could be a sneaky spot for Nick Chubb. I put him in my contrarian corner video for this week because we're looking at like 4 or 5% rostership on him with everybody going to Saquon Barkley in that matchup against Detroit today. Nick Chubb last week in a blowout broke off a 35-yard touchdown run at the end of that game. And he gave you 20-plus fantasy points. So he can do it in blowouts. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I got to say, you mentioned Donovan Peoples-Jones being on the waivers. Even if you're not going to start him this week, you got to put him on your bench. You got to stash this guy because you look at a quarterback like Deshaun Watson and what he does, which is he's not, it's like the exact type of guy, right? Like look at Will Fuller, the games he had, Brandon Cooks. Like this is the kind of quarterback you want for that guy where think about like Russell Wilson when he's in his prime or with the Seahawks, what he would do, not so much running for a ton of yards, but he extends plays, right? And then you find Tyler Lockett for these big chunk plays. That's the role Donovan Peoples-Jones is in. So if Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson, then Donovan Peoples-Jones could be Will Fuller, right? Like that is kind of the situation we got going on here. So you got to stash that guy, especially, even with Brissett, busting off 70, 80, 90-yard games. There's not a lot of that out there, right? So get after it.
Yeah, it's funny. In 2 weeks, we will be talking about Deshaun Watson against the Houston Texans. Like that, we are on the verge of that suspension being over, and then it definitely changes some of what we're going to be doing here. I think in fantasy when it comes to the Cleveland Browns and that offense moving forward. Any other thoughts here, Browns, Bills? Any other guys you like? I mean, obviously we talked about Stephon Diggs is safe, Singletary. Any Dawson Knox interest here?
Yeah, so Knox is he's found himself back to what he always was, which is a guy that plays a decent amount. He either scores or he doesn't. Those guys to me are all over the ground, but in this particular week, if you have nothing better, then he's a fine start. It's they're favored, high over under. He could easily sneak out on one of those the RPOs where whoever they decide scores the touchdown on those scores the touchdown because it's an unstoppable play. But you see when they do the RPO and Josh Allen pulls it back, whoever they have sneaking out, that's a free touchdown. And it's Dawson Knox a good chunk of the time.
Right. Giants are giving 3 at home against the Lions. It's a 44.5 game total here. We talked a lot about DeAndre Swift. Questions about DeAndre Swift. They're just not giving him enough of the snap share. He's not carrying the football because they're worried about that injured shoulder of his being used more in the pass catching role. Jamal Williams is the guy that's leading the way in terms of their carries. Amon-Ra St. Brown, they traded away TJ Hawkinson. So the Lions offense here certainly has some question marks. The Giants, we've seen Darius Slayton really start to perform well. Saquon Barkley, a big week last week. Thoughts here? Anybody that really sticks out for you?
I mean, so this is the modern NFL. And I wrote about this last year with DeAndre Swift. It didn't turn out to be true early on, but later on, like these teams, especially a GM like Holmes over there for the Lions, who had been there with the Rams, where they weren't competitive and they ran Todd Gurley into the ground. Like these teams now understand the impact of running a DeMarco Murray into the ground or running these guys into the ground. And there's no reason to do that right now when you're 3-6, right? So, and John, like you said earlier, you implied that teams that are winning, they have incentive to play big. Well, look at these Giants, 7-2. Yeah. Now Saquon Barkley's been reinvigorated. He's on a competing team. It doesn't feel anything like it used to, where it was like, who cares what we do today because we're not winning anything? Well, hey, you're right in it now. So these guys are going out there playing hard. Darius Slayton is a guy in deep leagues that we said we like. Wan'Dale Robinson in deeper leagues. Kenny Golladay didn't really play a full snap share. You can't trust that guy. But I mean,
A
you
little
got it.
revenge narrative though for Kenny G here against the
Yeah,
Lions.
maybe. I mean, the
You
thing
believe,
is,
you believe in that sort of thing. Yeah.
I don't even think he would want revenge on them. Those are kind of the good old days for him, right?
Yeah.
Like
You've been tweeting Tanner Hudson for a few weeks. Is that
no, he's done. I saw Howard Bender was in here, the original tight end whisperer. So basically, what happened here is they decided to go with the run heavy tight ends. Lawrence Cager came out, played 45 and 69 snaps, which is well above anybody else. Tanner Hudson only ran 11. The thing is,
Yeah.
Tanner Hudson played 11 snaps, ran 9 routes. Lawrence Cager played 45, ran 8 routes. So he is kind of a block tight end, but he's the starting tight end. So if I'm going to start anyone, I'm going to take a dart throw on the guy playing 50 snaps versus the guy playing 10. They kind of set us up in an enviable spot where the best pass catcher on the team is just not good enough at blocking. So to me, I'm just waiting for Daniel Bellinger to come back. But if you want to go crazy, start Larry Cager, like Howard suggested on DFS. Worth a stab for sure.
Would you play Brock Wright or James Mitchell at all?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
Brock
I
Wright,
played James Mitchell the first week. He got a touchdown, but I played like 8 snaps. So
he's the better pass catcher. It's the same situation where like you want James Mitchell out there. Brock Wright played 46 snaps, ran 13 routes. They threw 33 times. He ran 13 routes and blocked.
He still had a touchdown. It was super annoying.
I know. He blocked 7 of those pass plays though. Like, come on, that's almost 50% of the plays. They said, "Hey, we need a big play here. You stay in and block." Like that is just you don't want to see that. So, and real quick, we did have Tommy get in the game said, give us one deep DFS tight end, one deep DFS QB. I know that's typically behind the paywall at Fantasy Alarm. That's very secretive and important information, usually reserved only for members. But can we give them one deep value DFS QB and one tight end, John, you think?
Yeah. So sorry, I was looking at some updated news here on Ezekiel Elliott put into our being tweeted out by Tom Pelissero. Zeke expected to return today, but Pollard is expected to get more touches. So Pollard could be a sneaky play. What was the question again? No, I apologize. I missed
that. So Tommy getting the game wanted us to give each, because we are the position coaches over at Fantasy Alarm. If you're not a member, we write specific. We get deep in the DFS where we have one person on each position paying as close as possible attention, not diluting any of it. You're getting just one person analyzing it. That's why it's worth the money. I do tight ends. John does QB. Can we give up some proprietary secret information with a deep DFS play? One QB, one tight end?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the one quarterback that I put into my Contrarian Corner video today, you can find that over at Fantasy Alarm, is Joe Burrow. 3% rostership on DraftKings today. Nobody's playing him because they really like sort of that Cowboys game, Dak and Cousins. They have Fields in that range. But if you want a guy that has shown GBP winning upside, Joe Burrow's been that guy. He's thrown for 350 yards. He's thrown for 3+ touchdowns. Joe Mixon happened to have 5 touchdowns against the Carolina Panthers last time out. Those could have just been passing touchdowns by Joe Burrow. Like, the offense can still move the football here against Pittsburgh. So if you want to be different, right, you're just trying to build those multiple lineups, go against the field, you're looking for upside. Most people think like, oh, deep dive, you have to go cheap. You have to go like the value play and hope they hit. No, just go to a guy that has a very high ceiling. And Joe Burrow has a very high ceiling at low rostership. He can come out of this week potentially as the highest scoring quarterback. I'm willing to give it a go. T. Higgins is still very good. Tyler Boyd is still very good. So yeah, I think Joe Burrow is a sneaky DFS play this week.
And they're going to have to throw. And in DFS, interceptions don't kill you. Like, you can, the number one quarterback in DFS a lot of weeks throws 1, 2, sometimes 3 interceptions. It's
right.
not the end of the world. Yeah. So I'm there. I'm with you on that. With tight end, and I'm the same way. There's no really good, very deep play this week. Though I will say this: if you play on Yahoo DFS, Dalton Schultz for some reason is completely mispriced. He's the lowest price on Yahoo is $10. He's $12 on every other site. He's the 5th or 6th highest priced tight end on Yahoo. He's the 17th. I don't know what happened over there. I think that and you can't change it now, but they mispriced him. So if you play on Yahoo, play Dalton Schultz. If you play anywhere else, you play on DraftKings or FanDuel, I think Greg Dulcich this week is the good chalk. He's going to be super utilized, but I think at his price, you can't go away from him. He's only like 8% of your budget. So I just think that's the guy you have to play. You have to build around that play because it is the play. He's priced in the mid. He's priced it down the value tier. He's under $4,000 on DraftKings. So it's like you almost can't. There's no reason to pay down to 2,500 if he's 3,000 and 800 or whatever it is. So you got to start Dulcich with no Judy, with no Hamler against the Raiders. It's too good of a value.
Yeah, I agree with you here, and we have to. I've been talking a lot about Dalton Schultz of late. Like he just has that connection with Dak Prescott, right? It's just a really great. We saw it last year with his career year, and then since he's been back with Dak, it's been a really great production out of him. So
Crazy.
I definitely love that call.
10% of your budget on FanDuel on Yahoo, 6% of the budget. I honestly don't see why Yahoo would even. It doesn't make any sense. It really truly doesn't. 12. It's the minimum is 10 and he's 12. So if you do play on Yahoo DFS, you have to start Dalton Schultz.
Yep, I agree with you there. Some questions in our chat here. We'll hit these up quickly. Juggernaut's got a trade offer he wants to know our opinion on. Gives Dak and Godwin, gets Rondale and Rashad White. No, I'm keeping Dak and Godwin. Fournette's expected to be back. Like if you have White and Fournette, then you have to pick and choose which one you want to play. And I don't want Rondale more. Hollywood Brown could be back this week or next week. So no thanks on that question there. Ann wants to know Singletary or B-Rob today. It's interesting. That's a tough question.
Oh man, because I wanted to say Singletary right away, but because of the Texans.
Yeah, I might have to go Ryan Robinson, but I love Singletary.
Full PPR too, she said.
Yeah, Singletary does get some of the passing down work. Robinson's going to have more rushing yards today. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But if Singletary and if they do get in the red zone, he gets the carries. Like he is a bull. He gets those rushing touchdowns. So I'm going to go Robinson. I'm going to go Mike Williams over Adam Thielen, and the way I'm going to go about it.
Agreed on both. Unless there's some last minute news on Mike Williams, there's not 100%. You have to start him over Thielen. Thielen's just been okay, and now with Hawkinson there, it's too tough.
Yeah. Playing for keeps. We haven't discussed this one yet, but we did have it in the notes. Nathaniel Hackett is taking over play calling duties here on the offense. Do you think that changes anything for Russell Wilson? Would you play him in DFS? I do have Russell Wilson, the quarterback coach, but he doesn't really have anybody to throw the football to. So like it's Courtland Sutton, it's Greg Dulcich. He really needs to be productive with those two guys. That said, the Raiders are so bad.
Yeah, the Raiders are pretty bad, dude. Sorry, Tommy. So yeah, I think he's in DFS. Yeah, at his price, that's the difference. The price point makes him a start.
Yeah, I think you have to at least consider him. Not a core play today, though. Please, if big multiple lineups, throw him in one. Do not put your bankroll on the shoulders of Russell Wilson here.
Yeah, if you're going to start Russell Wilson, you got to start Dulcich in that lineup for sure. Pair those two, stack those two up, and take advantage of that value, and then you can save enough money with those two to spend elsewhere.
Yep. And is DeAndre Carter playable with Allen Williams back? No. Nope. Can't play him. Can't play him with those guys. Those guys are there. OBJ is expected to be working out for the Cowboys and Giants. Think he joins one of those two teams? Coop?
Can you imagine him going back to the Giants? That would be so spicy. I would love that. Just
they need help at wide receiver, but is he even good enough to be help at wide receiver? His second straight torn ACL. I mean, that turf is breaking everybody's knees up. Like,
yeah, it's the worst spot. Yeah, it's not a good spot. I mean, but with if he signs with the Giants, Kenny Golladay is dust. I mean, he didn't even play a full snap share last week, but I mean, good Lord, if they're considering bringing Odell back after all the nonsense that led to him being traded and all that, then that's crazy, but it could happen.
Yep.
I think
let's hit the rest of these quick game previews, and we got a lot of questions. Chat, YouTube, stick with us. We're going to get to you guys in a moment. We're just going to burn through the rest of these games, and we'll start rapid firing them here. Raiders Broncos, as we've talked about with all of the Russell Wilson and all that stuff. Listen, Broncos side is horrible. You like Greg Dulcich because you have to. You like Courtland Sutton because you have to. And the Raiders are just so goddamn awful. On the other side of that, Devontae Adams, billion targets because they don't have anybody else to throw the football to. And Josh Jacobs ran for 140 yards against Denver. That's all I want to play, on those games. It's Sutton, it's Dulcich, it's Adams, it's Jacobs. Everybody else is if you have to. The most if you have to player of all time is Foster Moreau. Like this dude,
he plays all the snaps when Waller's out, but Waller's missed a lot of games through his career. This guy's been in the league for like 5 years. He's never had more than 67 yards in a game. Like, so that is just a touchdown coin flip if I've ever seen one. And if you have to, then start him. Just know you're not going to be watching the game being super excited, unless either he scores or he doesn't. That's this guy.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Next matchup here, again, Bengals Steelers. We just talked about it. The Steelers here are getting 3.5. I'm just confirming that I have on the game total there. That seems kind of high for a Bengals Steelers game. I might have typoed that one incorrectly. Yeah, 39.5. I wrote 49.5. 39.5. I knew that was too high. Opened at 42, down to 39.5. Steelers are getting 3.5 points here. Like I said, I think it's just a contrarian play to go Burrow today. They're coming off of a bye week. He threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns in the week 1. He did have 4 interceptions in that game as well. But still, 350 and 2 scores. The potential's there. So I don't mind going Burrow as a contrarian play. You're going to play Burrow. You're going to play Higgins. You're going to play Boyd. You're going to play Hayden Hurst if you have him as your starting tight end. I know you don't like it, but you're seasonal. Like, he's going to give you 6 to 8 points. It's better than most tight ends this year, group. So,
right.
It's just what it is.
Just if you have Hayden, here's my thing on Hayden Hurst. Start him. Go ahead and start him this week. It's a fine matchup. But if he's your starting tight end, you need to sit there and consider yourself in need of a tight end, because Jamar Chase will be back at the most important part of the season, which is down the stretch. So you need to, if you can trade. If not, you need to be stashing high risk, high reward plays on the bench. Just see what you can find for the stretch, because Hayden Hurst, it's very difficult for guys like this to string 3 games together in a row, and that's how you win a fantasy football league, right?
Sure.
Like if your guys play well 2 out of 3 games, you don't win. So you need to have guys that can do it more consistently. Right now, he'll be fine with no Jamar Chase. Just know that he's like the 5th target on that team when everyone's out.
Yep. On the Steelers side of things, I thought it was interesting. So George Pickens got a rushing touchdown last week. He actually had 2 carries, Coop. With Chase Claypool traded, it seems like Pickens is now sort of getting some of that running work that Claypool occasionally got. Not a ton, obviously. He was like 2 for 23, but he did have the score. Just gives another little wrinkle to what his fantasy value is. That
is the difference maker, honestly, between wide receiver 3s and wide receiver 2s. You go back and look like high end wide receiver 3s versus low end wide receiver 2s. That's how Chase Claypool got there. Go back and look at a couple years ago. You take away the touchdowns, and he goes to wide receiver 3. You look at Curtis Samuel when he was with the Panthers. You take away the rushing work, he goes from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 3. With certain players, that makes the difference when there are 3 targets on the team. And we know they like Muth, we know they like Deontay Johnson, but that's keeping this guy alive, in my opinion.
Right.
Pickens his value. So you love to see that. And your boy Donovan Peoples-Jones kind of. They sneak him a carry or 2 carries 2 weeks ago every once in a while. You can't bet on it every single week, but it makes a huge difference just getting that extra touch. It's a difference between 5 touches and 7 touches. If it's a couple carries, give me that. So we like Pickens. We like Freiermuth, obviously.
You play pretty much all the guys you would on that team. It's just you don't love it, right? Like they're all playable. All the wide receivers are no more than wide receiver 3. Maybe if they find the end zone, they get the wide receiver 2. Najee Harris is a flex. He's a low end RB2. Like, you don't like it, but you don't have anything else. So you're starting them.
The reason we feel a little bit better now, though, is because when they traded Claypool, they didn't replace him with a full-time player. We were worried they might do that, but they ran 84 plays last week. The next highest guys were Steven Sims with 32 snaps. Right. Gunnar Olszewski with 22. Zach Gentry playing like half the snaps. We love that for fantasy. Put a fullback in there. Put a tight end that's not going to soak up targets in there. We want the consolidation at the top. So with Claypool gone, I do feel better about all these guys than I did before. I couldn't trust them, any of them before.
The 4:00 game of the week, finally, like a game that I really actually am excited about watching. At least I think. We'll see where Kirk Cousins shows up here. But Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings, a 1.5 point spread, a 48.5 game total. I'm sure you saw all the Justin Jefferson highlights from last week, Coop. That incredible 4th down in forever, pull down with one arm. 190 yards receiving. Guy's an absolute monster here. Just a great game stack situation in DFS today.
I stayed up. I watched the whole game. I didn't care. I love football, man. That game was one of the best games, bro. maybe the best game in the last few years, not just this year. So I stayed up and watched that entire game, dude. That game was amazing. And Kirk Cousins is just there's nobody that can do it the way he does it, dude. Nobody kneels when they're supposed to spike it. Nobody doesn't get that first, you know what I mean? That like QB sneak, like Kirk Cousins, but and then he turns around, wins the game. Like it's just Kirk Cousins he is a anomaly, that guy. And he can make for fun games, you know what I mean?
I was saying, I stacked that game last week as a sort of a contrarian play. Which it was. Nobody was on Justin Jefferson last week. It's like 3%. Nobody played Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins this year reminds me a lot of like what Matt Ryan has been the last few years. For like 3 quarters, you're swearing about how bad he is. And then you look up at the end of the day and it's like, oh, he got me 22 fantasy points. He threw for like 270 and 2 scores. He might have had 3 picks, but like, what does it matter at the end of the day if he's getting you the 20+ fantasy points? So
he digs a hole. He digs a hole and then he claws his way out.
But like, this is what's one. I love that TJ Hawkins is there because it really gives me a legitimate other option. KJ Osborne is not a very good wide receiver, right? He's just a guy that's out there. Irv Smith is just a guy that was out there. Defense is new. Shut down Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen is not going to kill you unless you really get in the red zone. Now they have to worry about Hawkinson. He is an actual threat to that offense, and it just changes the way teams have to defend this Minnesota Vikings offense. And then they still have Dalvin Cook, who can catch the football out of the backfield as well. And this is a spot against Dallas where their pass rush, elite, lead the league in sacks. They have a really good cornerback in Trayvon Diggs, who gives up big plays because he's always going for the interception. He's going to be one-on-one a lot of this time with Justin Jefferson in this game because he feels like he can be that shutdown corner. Jefferson's going to beat him on a couple of plays today. They're going to be some big yardage there, I think, for Cousins and Jefferson today. So really like that spot for him. And then on the flip side of this matchup here, CeeDee Lamb coming off a really big day against Green Bay. Minnesota's defense is not very good, really on either side of the ball. And we've seen, again, I think Tony Pollard, now with that news that he's going to probably see more touches than Ezekiel Elliott today, is in a really good spot as well.
Yeah, Diggs over there for the Cowboys, doesn't he remind you of Asante Samuel? Not the young one, not Asante Samuel Jr. for the for the Chargers, but Asante Samuel that played for the Patriots and the Eagles, where it's like it's either a pick or it's a 60-yard touchdown.
Yeah, like it's a pick six or it's 6 the other way. Right. It's one of the two.
Exactly. You know? That was Asante Samuel like to a T. And why fans were upset when the Patriots got rid of him, but then in hindsight, it's like when you watched him with the other teams, it's like, oh yeah, now I remember that. Like,
right.
We
fans just caught that interceptions from Eli Manning, and the whole narrative would have changed. So.
Exactly. Fans remember the pick sixes, but they forget about the 60-yard touchdowns. With Diggs, that's the case. He can blow it pretty bad there.
Yeah, this should be a great game. The Patriots, right? Bourne had that touchdown at the end of the game, like 60, 70 yards because he jumped the route and missed it completely. So
exactly. Yeah. So I gotta
take potential, but love this game today.
Yeah, I love those guys. Those guys are fun to watch, I was very surprised this offseason. Honestly, shocked that the Vikings didn't go out and get another wide receiver or didn't draft one either. They had the picks to get one. We know Kevin O'Connell wants to run 3 wide receiver sets with 1 tight end. It really honestly blew my mind that they rolled out there with Thielen and Osborne. And that to me, told me they were confident in Thielen. But right now, looking at it, like if you want to roll 3 wide receiver sets, this offseason, they're going to have to go get somebody else besides KJ Osborne because he's just not. He's not giving you anything. He's not even giving you
a lot of great wide receivers in the draft this year. Go get some stud to go next to Justin Jefferson, and like you're cooking, right? That's the way I'd go about it. Final 2 games for previews, guys, and I see all of your questions in YouTube, and I see them in our Bettor Sports chat. We're gonna get to them. I promised you here. We're right up to 11 o'clock today, so stick with us. Chiefs, Chargers getting 5.5 at home, 51.5 game total. Mecole Hardman out, and we have IR for Mecole Hardman. And Juju Smith-Schuster's out with a concussion. Kadarius Toney, MVS. Maybe a sneaky Justin Watson play. Maybe Sky Moore finally breaks into the rotation here today. So we'll see what the Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a guy that like you don't really know outside of Kelsey who he's going to throw the football to because he throws to everybody. So
I just can't. Sky Moore just not playing. So it's like I'm willing to be wrong this week. And like, what if he comes out and plays 60 snaps for the first time?
Right.
Like maybe that'll happen, but I just can't. I'm not going to be the one that bets on that. You know what I mean? So I would rather start Justin Watson. Justin Watson played 46 snaps last week. Sky Moore played 16. to me, that's all I need to know about that situation, because you can't get the targets until you get the snaps. So, obviously give me MVS, give me Tony. And then if you're doing this is a showdown, right? So
Yeah,
you got
Justin Watson's probably like $200 for your showdown slate, right?
that's
Like,
the one. That's the one.
yep, worth throwing out there. The Chargers are healthy, so you know where to go here. One of the offenses that we love: Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett. If you got him, that's all you really need there.
Good. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, like we had Ann asked in the chat about DeAndre Carter. What they want DeAndre Carter to be is a guy that something he does very well. He runs kicks and punts. So that's why he's on the team. He's not supposed to be asked to play wide receiver until two guys get hurt. So it's going to be Josh Palmer as the third guy. Again, if you're trying to go against the grain, maybe start him, but it's probably going to be back to the Keenan Allen and Mike Williams show.
It took like 5 receivers for DeAndre Carter because Jalen Guyton was ahead of him too, but then he got hurt. So like, they definitely want to utilize it. Sky Moore's the kick returner too. That's why like he doesn't really break into that wide receiver rotation for them.
So now if you want to get crazy in the showdown slate and everyone's going to be starting Kelsey. If you want to spend up on, you want like Austin Eckler and you want these other guys, then, you can try and go with a Noah Gray or a Trey McKitty. I don't think it's that crazy to go with either of those guys in a showdown slate under these circumstances, because with Gerald Everett, he's got the groin. Trey McKitty came in, he, played his role. He played the Gerald Everett role, ran 31 routes. That's pretty good. Yeah. And then on the other side, with all the wide receivers hurt, maybe you do see more Noah Gray. Maybe he catches. I mean, we've seen the guy catch a ton of.
You know what they do with Noah Gray is they have that goal line set where he gets under center and just does the power fullback run, right? The QB power, so he could get a sneaky rushing touchdown here potentially as well. So
not to mention that shovel pass by Patrick Mahomes is unstoppable. Whoever they choose to catch that, right? It's like the most unstoppable play. The RPO for Josh Allen and the shovel pass for Patrick Mahomes are the two most unstoppable plays. And whoever they choose to score the touchdowns gets the touchdown, So
last game here, and then we'll get to everybody's questions. 49ers, Cardinals. Cardinals are getting 8.5. It's a 43.5 game total. Mexico City game here. We don't know the status of Kyler Murray yet day to day with the hamstring. Zach Ertz is on IR. DeAndre Hopkins has been limited with his own hamstring injury, but Cliff Kingsbury said he is okay. Hollywood Brown was designated to return. He could make his return here for the Cardinals. So a lot of news here for the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of uncertainty for the Arizona Cardinals for a Monday Night Football game is never what you want for Monday Night Football.
Worst, bro. It's the worst. Like, of all the games to have this, like the quarterback's banged up, it just
all of the wide receivers,
awful, bro. It doesn't get worse, dude, because they're studs too. Like, we're not talking about like guys who just bench. It's DeAndre Hopkins. You know what I mean? So pretty rough here. I think honestly, Trey McBride, it's not the best matchup for him, but he came out and he played Zach Ertz's role. 62 of 68 snaps. They said, "You're Zach Ertz now." Right. So always interesting when you see that. It's a bad matchup for it.
Yeah.
But still, gotta keep it in the back of your mind. But yeah, if I can avoid any of these guys. Now, Rondale Moore, he's playing all the snaps, but again, as soon as Marquise Brown comes back, he's probably back to being
I mean, they could go 3 wide and play a lot of that with no Ertz, right? Like they could go in that direction for them. So definitely gives their offense a bit more explosiveness for Kyler there. So
now John, so say we talked about this before, like DeAndre Hopkins, like say, do you go out and add AJ Green and just kind of play that game and say, all right, I'm going to start DeAndre Hopkins, and if he doesn't play, I'll start AJ Green? Or
I don't know. Again, I don't like that. I don't like that situation.
Nah, me neither. But you'd have to be looking at Hopkins versus like a wide receiver 4 to do something.
Yeah.
If you have a wide receiver 3s, you got to get him in there.
Yeah. Big Bun in chat. We'll get to our questions now that we're done with those recap games. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on the 49ers?
I mean, start Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell if you have to. And then, I mean, like, you can't bench Deebo Samuel.
Right.
So, like, it really comes down to, I mean, the thing is, everybody's playing a consolidated snap share. Like, George Kittle played the whole game, Deebo, Ayuk, they all play the whole game, and they use Kyle Juszczyk, which is nice because, he's not commanding a bunch of touches, but it's just like they're not distributing the ball. Like, they just need a better quarterback, which I think they knew that when they drafted a new quarterback. So,
yep.
Tough situation.
So let's get to some of these questions here. We'll go to our Bettor Sports chat first, guys. If we see all your YouTube questions, we will get to you. If you don't want to wait for us to answer your YouTube question, go download the free Bettor Sports Network app, sign up, click join show, get in our Bettor Sports Network chat. It's free. You cut that line. We answer your questions first. Ed wants to know, Big Bun in chat, any DFS defenses today? Patriots defense against the Jets. Again, we're looking at a windy game as it is. They just owned the Jets. That one's pretty easy. I like the Saints today at home against the Rams. No Cooper Kupp was basically the only thing they had working for them in that offense was Cooper Kupp. He's now gone. Matt Stafford coming off the concussion. We've been seeing a lot of sacks out of that Saints defense lately, so I really like the Saints today. I think the Steelers could be potentially a little bit sneaky because they do have TJ Watt back. That offensive line for Cincinnati is terrible. And we've seen Barlow be prone to the interception at times here. So that's kind of a low dark play there. Three guys that I'm willing to take some shots on today.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with the Joe Burrow pick is we acknowledge, like John, you acknowledge that with the Joe Burrow pick where you're starting him in some leagues because of the upside, but the floor, of course, is like this is a guy that, how many guys are going out and just throwing 4 picks, like just throwing it to the wind, right? So like the upside is also there, and we're talking Steelers got to be there. Last I looked, they were bottom 5 pricing. Maybe the third or fourth cheapest team. So if you're looking to save up, I do like that Steelers play. And I love this. The Saints they're only like $3,000 on DraftKings too. So I mean, like these are
Pittsburgh 7th in DVOA against the run. They're down to 18th against the pass. So they were worse. They're starting to get better. So Watt's a game changer there on their defensive line. So I definitely think that there's some potential for that. And the Giants could be a little sneaky too. Again, high wins in that game. They're home. Detroit's offense has definitely been on the trend down. So but I wouldn't go any higher than the Patriots at 37 on DraftKings today.
Exactly. When I look at the slate, there's no reason to pay up for the Bills. The Bills game got moved to a dome. So there's no reason to pay up for the Bills. The Eagles with Matt Ryan, a quarterback for Indy, is not as enticing as it was with Ellinger. And like, I don't know. I just can't pay up for the Ravens.
The Ravens haven't been a good defense, but Baker Mayfield, he sucks. So,
he sucks, but I just can't pay that far up with the other options. That's the one.
I agree with you. Okay, Ann's got a couple questions here. Needs 2, James Robinson, Zeke, or the Drake. You got to go Zeke and the Drake. James Robinson just isn't playing for the Jets here. Loaf wants to know Najee, Zeke, or Pacheco today.
Just one?
Yep.
Probably Najee.
Najee.
Can't start Zeke with the info that we just got on Zeke.
And we don't know about Pacheco. Last week could have just been he hasn't shown that he can do it yet outside of the 1 week, so it's hard to trust there.
And he's still splitting the carries, and he's not getting the pass plays. It's like you just got to go upside with Najee because Pacheco, like if there's a chance the Chargers come out and start winning, and then it's going to be Jerick McKinnon. We've seen it happen too many times this year where McKinnon plays legit 40 snaps, and the other running backs play like 10 apiece. Yeah,
McKinnon's receiving prop, I think I saw it was like 32, I want to say, yards receiving. And I was like, oh, that is, I lied, 26.5 yards receiving. He's gone over 4 straight weeks. And this is a game where we think it could be a little bit of a track meet against the Chargers. 26.5 yards receiving seems pretty doable here for Jerick McKinnon today if you're into the prop betting game and you see him out there.
It's good. That's why I said, but like earlier in the show, I said I might straight up rank Jerick McKinnon over Isaiah Pacheco because we know that targets are more valuable than carries, and the dude's gotten 8 targets in each of the last 2 games. The last game was against Jacksonville, and they were winning, and they still went throw mode. And Jerick McKinnon played more snaps than everybody else. So in this game, where it's going to be a tough game, it could be a full-on Jerick McKinnon game, getting like 30.
Yeah, you can't even fight with me that McKinnon may be the best running back on their roster. So. It's very possible. Ann wants to know your thoughts on Higbee today.
I have him in my fade section of the DFS article. I think it's probably the biggest trap play out there. Everyone is the surface level analysis of they have to throw it somewhere because Cooper Kupp's not there. Well, this is the number 1 defense versus the tight end. They are destroying teams, and it's not even that close. Like they are a black hole for tight ends. Demario Davis, all these guys are awesome. And this guy's also such a low ADOT guy that I could see Higbee getting like 6-7 targets and catching like 3 of them for 30 yards. That's the game you're probably going to get here. So I'm not going there in my real leagues. I'm definitely not going there in DFS. That's where we make our money when everyone else starts Tyler Higbee and we go elsewhere.
Yep, I agree with you there. Let's recap again some of the inactives for today, and then we'll get to YouTube. I see you. We're going to get to your questions next. Key guys out for today again: Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, as we know, though apparently he is off crutches, so it could be back sooner rather than later for Jamar Chase there. J.D. McKissick is out. P.J. Walker's out. Baker Mayfield starting for the Panthers today. Josh Reynolds, Daniel Bellinger, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Nico Hardman are out for the Chiefs today. Corey Davis is out for the Jets. Khalil Herbert is out for the Bears. Dallas Goedert is out for the Philadelphia Eagles. KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy are both out for the Denver Broncos today. So those are some of your names that are going to be out for today's matchups here. Coop, let's go to it.
Before we go to that, just want to say there's a number of guys that are kind of on the fence. Stay tuned after our show. The Front Yard Fantasy guys are going to come on at 11:30. The official inactives will come out, and if Simon and JL don't read those inactives right at 11:30, I'm going to be in the chat hounding them, and on Monday I'm going to beat them both up. So you're going to get the official inactives for all the on the fence guys at 11:30. The ones John read are just the ones we know so far. So make sure you stay tuned after the show for that show. We're going to get official. They have to be in. Yep.
Full day of Bettor Sports Network here. After us, 11 to 1, we have the Front Yard Fantasy Show, and then from 1 to 8, the Bettor Zone, man, all day long, watching the games with you. So no reason to leave, no reason not to download the free Bettor Sports Network app. Go to your iTunes, Google Play Store, download, sign up, free. It's free. It's free, Coop. It can't beat free in these crucial times as we head into the near fantasy football playoffs, just a few weeks away. So let's get into our YouTube chat here, Coop. Nick Peroni wants to know D-Hop, Moore, or Tony. I may have answered that one, but I'm going to go Tony of that group.
Yes.
Let's see here. Singletary Sutton, we did that. We did that one already.
Yeah, we did that one.
I just got a refresh on this page.
David Banks is the next one I had.
Dust is most likely out. Algier or Jalen Warren today. Algier for me.
Algier played more snaps than Cordell Patterson. I know it's not always going to be like that, but just Jalen Warren's never going to out-snap Najee Harris at this stage of the game.
Yep. Tarek has, should we worry about Nuck's status? Yes. Better flex Higgins, Pittman, or Myers. Higgins today. I'll go Higgins.
Higgins. And I would actually, I know it doesn't matter, but I would rank Myers ahead of Pittman.
I would rank Myers ahead of Pittman as well. Frederick, which three receivers? Mike Williams, Boyd, Tony, Cooper, Campbell, full PPR.
Darius Toney, I'm getting in there for sure. I mean, there's too tantalizing upside to have him with everyone else out, you know?
Yeah. I'm playing Mike Williams as well. So Tyler Boyd, Amari Cooper, or Paris Campbell, probably Amari Cooper for me.
Yeah, it's got to be Amari Cooper.
Yeah, so Amari Cooper, Kadarius Toney, Mike Williams there. George Cook, am I really starting Fields over Burrow today? You are. Why would that not be? It's Atlanta, man. Yeah, you start Fields today. The rushing floor is so high that even if he doesn't have a good throwing day, he still gets you enough fantasy points.
Even in 6-point passing. Point passing. I'll go there because the rushing floor is so good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Fields is going to, I mean, it'd be an ultimate letdown against Atlanta. Jacob Ander wants to know, need running back in a flex and a PPR. Boyd, Swift, Drake, Patterson. Got to go Drake with the Gus Edwards news we're expecting here. So Boyd, Swift, or Patterson for your flex?
Man, Boyd, even with, the thing is, even with Jamar Chase hurt, it's hard to trust Boyd. So why did we even draft Boyd in our fantasy leagues? I think I would start Drake.
I think they're just unexpectedly running the ball more than we thought they would. That's the problem.
It hurts, man. It hurts because it's like
Drake and Patterson for us.
Drake and Patterson.
Zach wants to know Jamal Williams, Devontae Smith, and Jacoby Myers today. Flex PPR.
Jacoby Myers. I mean, he's rock solid, and I don't think the weather is going to impact him the way it might impact guys running higher ADOT routes.
Yep. Eric wants to know Komet or Muth.
That all of a sudden is a tough question, but I think I'm still going to go with Freiermuth here. They're highly consolidated.
Over Cole Komet?
I think I do have it that way. Yeah. I mean, it's like Cole Komet. Yeah, I don't know. I still have it that way. Muth has been so consistently targeted that I'm going to even. I was one of the biggest Cole Komet guys coming into the season, but I just need to see it. I like Muth has been consistently targeted, consistently utilized. They traded Chase Claypool, like all the conditions that I said before the season. I didn't like Muth. I did like Komet, but all the conditions have come together for Muth and Komet. You know, he's still kind of touchdown dependent.
Yeah, 13 targets the last 2 weeks, so he's off the board. I'm going to go the upside player. I'm going to disagree with you.
Komet
Coop is the tight end guy. So if you want to trust the tight end guy, you go Fryermuth. If you just want to go with me,
But
just
John's
plain
right.
old
If
me.
you want to, you know your stuff, and you're right. Komet has the higher upside. I mean, touchdown. There's no higher upside than a guy scoring 2 touchdowns each week. Like,
Right.
but
He's got 5
youth
touchdowns
is
in 3 weeks. That offense is moving. It's the Atlanta Falcons defense.
yeah.
I'm just
A big part of what does it for me though is that like we know that the Saints are the best team versus the tight end. We know that it was a bad matchup for Freiermuth last week, and they still tried to get him the ball 7 times.
Sure.
That like if you can just not throw, like a normal team would just not throw to their tight end. They basically Steelers came out and said this guy is a focal point of the offense. We're going to try to get it to him anyway, and it didn't work. But this week it probably is going to work. So youth is why. Yeah, I got those guys like back to back though.
Ketonic in our Bettor Sports chat here. TD only league with a bonus over 100 yards. Kenyon Drake, David Montgomery, or Deonta Foreman.
Montgomery versus the Falcons. No Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, I know it definitely feels that way. I mean, no Gus Edwards though. Drake was a monster against us.
Yeah, I know, man. Those are all good. You can't start Foreman because they're going to.
Foreman. I would lean Monty over Drake. I would.
Yeah, but you're right. It got much closer with the Gus Edwards news.
I agree with you there. Let's see. Where are we? Sarah Riley wants to know Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson in a half PPR. Sit one. I think I'm sitting Swift.
Yeah. Sucks.
Swift.
He's just not. They're using Jamal Williams as the power back.
Yeah. And well, he's just getting all the carries too. It's just
getting all the carries. Yeah.
All the carries. Carter Bradley, Cousins, or Jimmy G. Gonna go with Cousins here against Dallas, rather. Just higher upside for me.
Yep, those are the games you want your quarterback playing in. You don't want your quarterback playing in a game like where they're 13-point favorites. You want like a 50-point over under close game.
Yep, I agree. We have a question here. Watson this week. So I already asked Watson this week, and I've been back and forth with Higbee. What do you think? They're worried about the 49ers blowing them out and no Kittle. Not really sure what we're being asked here. What do we think about Higbee? We kind of talked about that already, Coop. I want to just rehash your Higbee thoughts here.
Yeah, Higbee is going. This is going to be the greatest trick the devil ever pulled, trying to trick people into starting Higbee against the number 1 defense versus the tight end.
He wants Kittle or Higbee. That's what it is. Kittle or Higbee today.
Kittle, dude.
Okay. He said he's worried because Kittle keeps blocking, and they are big favorites.
So that misconception on the Kittle blocking goes all the way back to when Trent Williams was out. Even then, the most snaps Kittle blocked in on pass plays in a game was 4. Last week, they played 71 snaps. Kittle played all 71. They threw the ball 30 times. He ran 28 routes. I'm not sure how, 2 times he blocked on pass plays. I'm not sure how little people want this guy to block, but he's never blocked on more than 5 pass plays in the game. He's always heavily involved. So against the Kansas City, they threw 47 times. He ran 46 routes. It's just a matter of game script. So sure. I got to go Kittle.
Let's see here. Tim Robinson currently playing the role with Dak over Burrow. Do you agree? I do. I would go Dak over Burrow there. I see you, Mark. Full PPR start 3. Wide receiver, running back, flex. Garrett Wilson, Gabe Davis, Kadarius Toney, Brian Robinson, Pacheco. My running back, I'm going to go Robinson over Pacheco. Yes. So give me a wide receiver and a flex play of Wilson, Davis, and Toney. Coop.
Wilson, Davis, Toney. We like. Oh,
Toney for 1. Yep.
You said Brian Robinson, right?
Yeah, Brian Robinson's going to be your flex here, or your running back here.
Running back. Okay. So Toney at wide receiver.
Yeah, and then a flex of Garrett Wilson, Gabe Davis, or Pacheco.
Oh man, dude. I got to go outside and feel the wind out there. I feel like keep an eye on the wind for this Patriots game. If it gets up to 20 miles.
Gabe Davis has obviously the highest upside.
Start Gabe Davis. Yeah, start Gabe Davis. It's supposed to be windy, and also Patriots corners. I know Garrett Wilson had a good game against his team last time, but these Patriots corners are pretty
coming
good.
Off of a bye, New England at home. It just doesn't feel like a spot where the Jets are going to do much here. So I could be wrong, but Patriots defense has been good. So
if I had to bet on a game this week for 20 total points to be scored, I would pick this game. Right?
Dude, I was all in on Nick Folk today as his kicking prop was 1.5 field goals. He has 9 field goals made the last 2 weeks. And then I saw that it was going to be 30-mile-an-hour winds. And I was like, it was there for us. but I don't know with the win today.
38.5.
9 field goals in 2 weeks, Scoop. That's ridiculous.
I rarely bet the under. If the over-under is under 40, I might still bet. This might still be a spot where you bet the under, even though it's like, what's the updated number? 37.5?
There's 37.5, yeah. Ugly. Jacob Ander need a running back and a flex and a PPR. Boyd, Drake, Swift, Patterson. I might have answered that one already. Drake is definitely in play for the running back. Boyd, Swift, or Patterson for your flex, Scoop.
I think he jumped into the app and asked over there.
Oh, did he? Love it then. Love that you jumped into the app.
Let's just rehash that quick that we said Drake and Patterson. But that's how. So this is an example every week, or at least I've been out for a couple of weeks here on vacation, but every week we get an example like this where we ask people in the YouTube chat. They listen to what we're telling you. They get over into the app, download it for free, cut the line, and that question gets answered. And this is an example of just kind of, we're still going to answer every question, fantasy alarm, ride or die, but it's just a way to cut the line. So this is an example. You probably, you get to hang out with us for another 20 minutes or so, but he did get his question answered a good 15 minutes early by today.
Yeah, we got 4 minutes left on the show, but again, don't leave. Front Yard Fantasy right after us, 11 to 1, going to continue answering questions, give you your start sits and everything, all the goodness up until roster lock here. Let's do rapid fire here, Coop. Let's see. 12-man half PPR, Mixon and Barkley starting. He needs 2 for wide receiver, Slayton, Landry, Collins.
Slayton and Landry.
Okay. Let's see here. Najee or Drake for Durs?
Drake.
Swift, Jamal Williams, Cook, or Drake, London. So Swift, Williams, Cooks, or London?
Jeez, I will Drake London. It's a high over-under game.
Yeah, that's fine. Full PPR pick 2 wide receivers and a flex. Sutton, Tony, Rondale Moore, Pittman, Mooney, Warren. A lot of questions here. Tony for sure. So Sutton, Moore, Pittman, Mooney, Warren, Coop.
I think I like Sutton, Tony, and Mooney.
Yeah, Sutton, Tony, Mooney for sure. Do I trade Fields, D-Hop, and Walker for Murray, Eckler, Smith? Nope. Keep Fields. Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown today against the Colts?
Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown? A.J. Brown.
Yeah, A.J. Brown. Do I start Mark Andrews? Yes. If he's in, you start Mark Andrews.
Yes.
His other option is Cole Kmet. If Andrews doesn't play, you go Kmet, but you got to go Andrews if he's healthy. He's just the way you're going.
Cole Kmet over Isaiah likely though, if Andrews is out.
Yeah. C.D. Lamb, A.J. Brown, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, or Pickens. C.D. Lamb for me today. Full PPR.
Jesus Christ, that team is loaded.
That team is. Oh wait, Nick Chubb. Yeah, what are we talking here? Full PPR. Nick Chubb. Yeah.
All the guys gonna be on your bench, bro.
Yeah, is that a DFS play? It might have been
maybe a DFS question. Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. Good morning, Scampers. Good morning to you as well. Couple more minutes here, guys. I'm going to try to go through them. Ayuk, Pittman, Devonta Smith, Jarvis Landry, Jalen Warren, Eli Mitchell needs 3 of those.
So I'm definitely starting Ayuk. I like Ayuk and Devonta Smith. I'm not starting Jalen Warren or Eli Mitchell. So John,
I might go Pittman in this spot. I go
Pittman over Landry. Yeah.
Start your flex, Mitchell, Claypool, or MVS.
Can't start Claypool. He's just not playing enough right now. So I would start MVS.
MVS, yep. Pollard or James Conner today? I'd go Pollard given the Zeke news.
Yeah, I like Pollard
there. Kadarius Toney, would you start him over Gabe Davis?
Ouch. I don't know. John, you call that one.
I'm going Kadarius Toney for sure. Michael Carter or Brian Robinson?
Brian Robinson.
Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers. Oh, Keenan Allen.
Yeah. Keenan Allen over Jacoby Myers. I agree with you. Guys, stick with us. Bettor Sports Network coming up. Your Fantasy is the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm for Coop. John and Impemba will be with you guys next week for Week 12. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you later.